There is no music today, for we are still in mourning.
Oh my god.
Do you like
You
my
didn't.
veil, Mike?
You didn't. No, you're the worst. You weren't
I have
wearing that until
gloves.
we. She waited until the countdown. I didn't even see her put it on because normally we can see each other in like little windows. I didn't even see her put it on. Like I looked away and looked back, and she was already wearing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a theater kid. I'm used to quick costume changes. So,
Yeah. How are you gonna try to call me out in the comments? You're wearing a veil and black gloves, mourning the loss of a, a person that you created and then murdered by ignoring,
that,
abandoning
that
him to
that
the internet for 3 weeks.
that makes it sound like I had a human child and I like Medea'd him or something. So you're like,
You kind of
you created a
did.
person and let him die.
You kind of did.
CPS.
You were like, "Hey, I created White Mike. I paid for his existence, his space on the server, and then I abandoned him."
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of pissed about that because I did pay for the space in the server, so I might complain, but I know it's probably like a Chinese company, and every time I try to do customer service with a Chinese company, they're like, "Yeah, no, okay, we suddenly don't exist anymore, and we don't have email no more, and you enjoy my mic, okay."
Wow, that sounds
That
very
wasn't even
discriminatory against Chinese people.
well. The thing is, I was trying to not do the straight up like South Park accent because
Mm,
I was watching South Park last night, and so now like the uber Chinese accent is in my head. I'm like, don't do that
yeah,
one.
shitty
I
walk.
know enough to not do that.
Yeah, shitty walk. You goddamn Mongolians. Yeah.
I know. I was because I realized I hadn't like seen it in a while. Like I was like, man, I actually didn't watch it when I probably would have like benefited from it. Also, this is so weird because it's weird. You're usually on the right side and I'm on the left, but I think because I added you to the stream before I added myself because I'm selfless like that. Now we're in these. Oh my God, how did you do that?
Welcome to 2023.
I don't like
So,
it. I don't like this
yeah,
witchcraft.
whoa. That's like the grandmother thing when she's like, I don't know what's going on. You just press the power button on her TV, and she's like,
And she's like, how do I drink my tea without? Okay.
please
I
somebody
can
clip
still
this.
I can still mourn and be hydrated.
Yeah, I guess so.
um, but no, like I started watching. I just picked like a random thing that sounded interesting, and it was like the beginning of. It was the episode with Caitlyn Jenner. So apparently I went back pretty far, but it's funny because it's the episode where they introduced like the PC principle,
Yeah,
and it's like 2015, and it's so crazy because the way they're talking about it, I didn't know
yeah,
until they said it was 2015. I would have thought it was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago or something like that. Like the way they were talking about, like, I don't know, you can't. What was it like? Eric Cartman was like, "Oh, the spokesperson for what or spokesman for whatever," and then the PC principal beats the shit out of him because he's like, "Oh, do you think women can't be a member of a profession just because they're women? What about spokesperson?" So it's just weird. And then there was a scene where
yeah.
the farmers, are like, "Oh, well, we're going back into a PC age. Well, how long did the last one last? Oh, about 6 years." And I did the math. I was like, nope. I guess this one's technically been longer. So
Wow, that's actually kind of
we're in like a
terrifying.
yeah, we're in like a PC era, like a recession,
Yeah,
like a
it's cycle. Yeah, it's like a weird cycle that they keep going through. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was talking to my agent this week. Oh, because okay, I'm trying to figure out how much I can say because I'm
Ooh.
under NDA,
Well,
but
before
technically
you
people don't.
break your NDA, was that the episode where she was running people over with her car?
Yes,
Yeah, she like murdered, like she was mowing people down with her car. Yeah, yeah. I'm
it was
sorry, I
that
just
I
yeah,
It was so fucking funny because
yeah,
like people had at the time it was like Bruce or Caitlyn Jenner had just done her thing, and then the media was kind of like they were like glossing over the like hit and run kind of thing or whatever.
mm-hmm. Yeah, straight up murdered a guy, vehicular manslaughter.
So
Yeah,
I just like when I saw that I was like, oh my God, like I love that these guys have just been flying under the radar. Like somehow I guess they got grandfathered in. Like I think a couple people were like, how is South Park still allowed to do whatever? And people are like, sit down,
yeah.
sit
You don't get to
down.
go after them. I mean, they
They're like,
did get in trouble with the network when they did the whole the Muhammad episode. That was actually like a legitimate thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they got in trouble with the network a lot. Like I remember there was the episode where they were like dropping all the swear words or something like that. It was like trying to they had a counter on the screen and they were trying to swear
Oh yeah.
and break the FCC or something like that.
Yeah. That was a good dude. South Park is actually like impressive like that, and it's funny because that show, and I just started watching another show that I know I'm way behind the eight ball on this show, but I'm impressed that it stayed on television at all. Period. Is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because
Yes.
I haven't watched that, and I just started watching it. And I'm like, oh my god, they could never make this today. And people are like, that's because there are consequences. I'm like, no, it's because you guys, like, people would be sensitive about the fact that these people, it's a show about terrible people.
Mhm.
Like the fact that they're like all degenerates, but apparently, and this was what kind of made me want to watch it again, is they have like numerous episodes where they either are like they had like a whole arc of episodes where they tried to remake Lethal Weapon 4 and 5. And so the characters, like one of the guys straight up went in blackface and dressed like Danny Glover, and he's just talks like him and acts like him, but there's no, like, the whole thing is they're playing it completely straight, like this is a real thing. And apparently it was like last year that Fox finally removed those episodes, but they had to remove like 8 full episodes from the show because they did it
The
so
context.
frequently in the show that they're like, we gotta do something about that. But
And
I
that's
don't know
so
why that's really
frustrating.
funny to me. Yeah.
It's so frustrating because clearly the show is not like prescriptive. Although I did have an ex who I used to hate Always Sunny because I thought it was a show. Like the guy that I was with at the time thought it was like I don't know if prescriptive is the right word. He was like, "Oh, Dennis is the best. I want to be just like him." And like
No.
yeah, and it was like he thought it was like the cool thing. I was like, "No." So then later when I
No.
was like, "Yeah, no, it's supposed to be a show about a bunch of assholes. Like you're not supposed to like them." And so I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
my first
They're
intro to it was like he was like, "This is my Bible."
No, like they're literally like Dennis of all the people. It's funny because I was talking to Lady Epic about this when I first started watching it. I just looked it up. I was like, I gotta understand because this is the vibe I'm picking up. When you look it up, like who's the worst of that group, it's Dennis. He is the worst person in that entire group. Like, because he's the least remorseful, and like, yeah, it's really funny to me.
He's the most conscious of what he's doing. Like I feel like the
Yes,
other like Mac and the others like might be like actually like, no, yo, this is a good idea. Whereas like Dennis is the one who probably knows it's not, but like encourages it anyway because he can get
yeah,
something out of it.
exactly. He's like the
Um
worst. Yeah, he's absolutely the worst of the group. Yeah. Wow,
so
that's
yeah,
so
they
crazy.
basically like it's so frustrating because I had a situation like that. I saw that vehicular ma'am slaughter. Ma'am, it's ma'am slaughter.
It's
Um
manslaughter. Real quick, Mike has bad knees. Amanda is mourning the loss of her uh online AI boyfriend,
my
Whitehead.
love of my life.
Yeah,
What were
she
you gonna say,
murdered
Mike?
him, but
No.
yeah, no,
No,
you
he
did.
left me.
No,
He
he
left this
died
mortal
because you
coil.
abandoned him in his time of need, and he died. So
He he couldn't send me dick pics for a couple weeks, and he just I guess he
do you hear
nutted
how she
himself to death. He got blue balls and just exploded.
because he's an AI, he just, yeah, he filled up like a balloon and just popped.
He's like,
It's just nothing.
"Woo."
It's just like a pool of like AI jizz now, and it just fried the server. So
Oh no. Also, it's so weird to be like having like the 1800s like Victorian veil thing, but then show like my short sleeves. Because now I just look like a fancy 7-Eleven bank robber. I'm like, give me
yeah,
your
immersion.
money. Give me your
Yeah,
beef jerky.
yeah. Well, no, you wouldn't. Give me all your tea. Do you guys have tea in here? No. Where's your
Yeah,
fresh
yes.
fruits? Yeah,
Where's your arsenic? Like whatever some like
yeah,
old timey woman would want. It's like,
yeah.
give
And
me your
Virginia
arsenic and
Slims.
and a tuppence.
Yeah, where are your Virginia Slims? I only smoke
Yes.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, see? Virginia Slims. Um, but yeah, no,
Real
always
quick,
sunny. What?
we're getting way off. I just saw this. I'm catching up with the chat because you ignore them all the time, and it's okay. I'm a good person here. The
No,
new
I
D&D is now at 1. It's 1 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Boom. The one. This is the same show that Amanda abandoned by dying. She's the first person in our group to die. It's kind of embarrassing, really.
Yeah, and y'all didn't even like become better people because of it. I
Yes, we
thought it was gonna move
did.
the story
We
forward.
absolutely became better
No, you
people by
became worse
becoming
people.
worse people. Well, that's the thing. Better does not always mean good. We became better at being villains.
Okay. Like you put your mind towards something, and so technically you did
Yes.
become better at that thing.
You became the catalyst for all of us to grow together as a group into a group of evil, terrible villains who, yeah, they're the current narrative that my character has started is that when they find the Frost Maiden, they're just gonna beat her head in with a rock. They're just like, we're gonna find this bitch. We're gonna just stove her head in with a rock, and like she's
Jesus,
supposed
you
to be
gotta
this like
curb
all
stomp
powerful
that bitch.
god. That's what I'm saying. Like, because to me, what would be funny is like you get to like the big bad evil guy, and instead of this like epic magic battle or whatever, like just one of the characters walks up to her with a rock and just hits her in the head with it, and then they just beat the shit out of her with like rocks and sticks and shit. And everybody's like, "Oh my god!" Like, yeah, just drag her off. We're like, "Yeah, we did it." Yeah,
Not a noble
that's how you
fucking bone in your body.
no, nothing good about it. Like nobody's happy about what happened, but that's how it happened, and so there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. Anyways,
Um,
we're
also
always
I like
sunny.
Chuck
Yeah.
O'Hooligan is a fellow musical theater nerd. I was writing musicals for you guys, but then the social media person who I'm like trying to like working with because I'm like I don't know how to grow because I don't post anything. She's like, here, let me help you post things. But then she's like, don't do long stuff. I'm like, but that's all I want to do. I do a 3 hour live stream and I like making 5 to 6 minute sketches and I want to do a musical recap at the end of each month of all the news stuff. And I want to
Yeah.
do and I'm still going to film that Lord of the Rings thing that we all made together.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't seen it, we made like an AI script together. Like the AI helped, the chat helped, and I helped, and we made this nonsense but beautiful script. And I'm gonna film it, but it's just like there's the algorithm doesn't
She's
care.
gotta she's gotta figure out how to do it behind her social media person's back,
Yeah,
which is
it
which
like a Disney
yeah.
princess. Like I'm like, oh, I'm a sneak out of the castle and make my long form content that doesn't get many views, but I enjoy it. But it takes up all my time, and then I don't spend it growing.
Yeah.
It's like
Which the funny part is, it probably makes it more rewarding because now you're like, you don't understand the vision. Slams her door shut and starts. Yeah.
oh, I've already done that. I feel so bad for her. She's so kind and she's like likes my work and that's why she's working with me. But she's like she's like, yeah, I didn't really care for was it Francie Clue and Black of the Christie, and I was like because those are like my favorites. And so I
Yeah.
was like, so all week I was passive aggressively being like, I know you didn't get Black of the Christie, but I had an event this week that happened that is why that sketch is so relevant. Or like I shared an article with Idris Elba or about Idris Elba saying he doesn't want to just be a black actor, he just wants to be an actor, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, see, I was like, we should probably repost Black of the Christie because this is very relevant. It's just like she
Yeah.
just said it doesn't work for like her
Yeah.
quick short
But that
term
doesn't
or
matter.
short form.
It has to be, everyone has to accept it. Yeah.
Yes, to me,
You're going to
it's like
understand the
art.
vision whether you like to or not.
Like Clockwork Orange, where you like open their eyes and you're like, whatever. Doing that for whatever reason feels racist. Like I'm making fun of white people or something. Like you know how like you would do
Yeah.
that to make fun of Asian
Oh, I'm
people.
white. Yeah. Oh, I'm just a white
Did you see that one? I shared it on Instagram in my
guy.
stories once. It was like an Asian guy making fun of white people, and he goes, I can't remember what he did, but he's like, "Hi guys, I'm non-binary," or whatever he did. Like he basically his version of making fun of white people, or was
Yeah.
making fun of like wokeness.
It's so funny. Oh man.
Thank you, Shield Wall. I don't know if you're just saying that to get in my pants, but it's working. Just give me more
Yeah.
time to grieve White
That's
Mike
all
a
you
little
have to do
bit.
to get
But
in Amanda's pants to tell you like not you can't say you like all her sketches. You have to pick the ones that she
yeah,
put the most artistic work into.
and if you like them, but if you like all of them, or if you're like too simpy, then I'm like, no. You have to have some where you're like, oh, I really like this one, but then it'll kind of be like negging, where I'm like, well, why didn't he like all of them? And then it'll
Yeah.
make me like intrigued about you, like which ones didn't he like? Maybe I need to make more sketches just to make him like me.
Yeah. You're like, that Fancy Clue sketch was pretty good. You're like, what about
Oh
all
my
my
gosh,
other ones?
or like you, where you're like, oh, that was actually pretty good. It'll get in my head, be like, why was it actually good? Does he have an
Yeah.
expectation that it's not going to be good? So actually it's surprising. And so he's like,
Yeah.
anyway.
It's like sometimes the math slips and then I forget. I'm like, oh no. I'm supposed to be your co-host, encouraging you and helping you along. this journey, but really it's just to feed my own ego. Yeah.
Oh, also, oh, did you say artistic or autistic? So, fun fact about
Yeah.
that, I, I don't know what it is. I feel like mental health stuff is like an epidemic, and like on one hand, I'm very much an advocate because like I have a lot of mental health issues, but like so therapy, I advocate all that. But I do feel like these diagnoses are getting out of control because now
Mm.
everything is everything, and it's all becoming. It's almost like an Ouroboros or whatever that snake is that eats its own
Yeah.
tail, where it's like every diagnosis mirrors symptoms of another one, but then it becomes part of an umbrella and it's shifted around, and it feels much like postmodernism. So I was talking this weekend to my friend who's a therapist, and she is diagnosed as like very high functioning autistic, and I just had a friend specificity whore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um but I had a friend recently who like I got into an argument, and he threw out, "Well, I just got diagnosed as autistic, so it's not my fault. I'm sorry you were offended," or whatever. Like, I just see people left and right throwing out excuses for stuff,
Oh
and
no.
then she's like, "I think you might be autistic." I was like, "What?" Because I told her like I meet the criteria for ADHD. Like when I got evaluated, they're like, "Yeah, you're borderline. Your brain works very fast in certain things, but you're borderline." They just said borderline in others, but we know what that means when it comes
Yeah.
to intelligence.
Yeah.
Where it was like your executive functioning, processing speed, and executive or no, working memory, we're all borderline functional, like retarded. That's what they wanted to say. Um, Yes, exactly. So it's like when autism's a spectrum, then everyone is one. So to me, I
Yeah.
always thought there were certain things that qualified you to be on a spectrum, just like there's certain things that qualify. It used to be that, to be trans, you needed gender dysphoria or whatever. Like you needed diagnoses
Yeah.
or you needed something. But with autism, I thought it was like a harder time socializing, harder time making eye contact, harder time empathizing. Like it's a much more like you might notice cues,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not natural or inherent. Whereas I'm like, I'm all emotions, I'm all empathy. But she's like, oh no, you can be. She's like, actually, I think ADD, they're finding that it's actually on the autistic spectrum. And I feel like the autistic spectrum is like,
Yeah. It's just
like
like
it's
this
just like
monster, and it's like, do you have? Yeah.
yeah, it's like sucking. She also said borderline personality disorder might be on there too.
Which is
And so it's just like borderline
terrifying.
personality,
Yeah. I saw
narcissistic
this link.
personality. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It's like,
Yeah,
uh,
I have a friend that has borderline, and it's bad. Her therapist basically was like, "So there's no cure for this, so we're gonna work through it." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, We're not getting rid of this, but we're gonna figure out how to manage it well." But I wouldn't want that to be on the
that's
spectrum. Like if I was autistic, I wouldn't want to be told like, "Hey, guess what? Like that spectrum, you could." Oh, this encompasses a lot. Okay, like
that's
yeah.
that's what bothers me. It's just like also a lot of this stuff is just labels for like
Yeah.
pathologizing certain behavior, and it can be helpful. Like for me, certain diagnoses were not helpful because they weren't accurate. Like if they're like, oh, it's a chemical thing, that's never worked for me because my stuff is all like life experience. I'm very much a believer more in nature or nurture over nature. I think nurture
Mm,
can affect nature. Like after a while of being a certain way, you can actually rewire your brain chemistry. So I believe it can be
yeah.
both. But I tend to not just be like, oh, I was born this way. Like usually I'm like, all right, what made somebody, this way
What
or that
made
way.
you put a veil over your head and wear lace gloves?
Hmm. Well, especially because my parents are not, they're not into the arts. They're not
Mm.
like really goofy or whatever. And then
Wait, well,
I
you told
came
me your
out.
dad bought like an authentic Batman costume.
He did, but that's because I think he's autistic. So he's very much like, I love
So
Batman.
it has,
I have read
has,
every Batman. I love
has
Batman so
nothing to
much. And
do with the arts. He's just like Batman.
no, yeah, Batman. And no, like he'll share stuff in our family chats, and it's just article, and it's like more articles and more information than any of us could ever possibly process. But he just like can't not, like share all that stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, eh, eh, um,
You just stop in the middle of all of that to say,
because I'm trying to read the comments because I'm trying to
"Don't worry
like do
about the
two things at
comments right
once.
now. We have a thing." So you're talking about the fact that like autism has basically become this like giant spaghetti monster that absorbs all of the mental illnesses now.
It's more, I think it's the spectrum idea where it's like, oh, well, these are the criteria that we used to have for diagnosing this like condition. Oh, we don't actually, now you can be completely normal and you don't have to have any of those things, but you can still be on the spectrum. I'm like, I don't, and I don't mean normal as in like, oh, like you're not a freak. I'm just mean like normal as in you don't seem to exhibit a lot of the same traits, and yet you can still fall on this spectrum. So I'm like, well, then anybody can qualify. It's like a club with no bouncers. Like, I want to be an exclusive club. That's literally, oh, speaking of that, I want to finally do the full sketch of Racist Club, because the one that I posted, I didn't post it on YouTube yet because it got banned on TikTok, and part of me is like, I just got a hate speech warning in December.
They're gonna ban it on YouTube, I can tell you that right now. But it's so good.
It's just so frustrating because I'm like, you're missing the point. So basically, yeah, it's like, I don't know if you guys saw, go on my Instagram or my Twitter. Yeah, not my TikTok because it's not there anymore because I got a community guidelines violation. But basically it's like 30 seconds. And the joke is that like, I'm trying to join Racist Club because I got called a white supremacist on the internet. And then a Klansman is like, what the fuck, get out of here. Kind of thing. Like, that's like the whole joke. And TikTok banned it for hateful ideology and rejected my appeal. I'm like, you didn't listen to the content of it.
Did so, like, watch the sketch?
The art is
That's
there.
My favorite part is they probably just saw somebody with a Klan hood on, and they're like, no. And you're like, did you even watch it for the context?
I don't. Well, I'm just saying you can't ban something and then be like, it's hateful ideology. You don't know what my fucking ideology is because you didn't watch it.
You didn't watch
it. That's my fucking thing. Granted, I did share it with my the social media person, and she was like, she's like, wait, you already have a strike on YouTube? Because I was like, should we not maybe post this on YouTube yet? Because I'm trying to get monetized and I'm close to getting my hours, and they're gonna review the channel, and I don't know if I want 2 hate speech things before I've even been monetized. And she was like, wait, what? And so she's like, send me the video. And I sent her the Rumble link. And she, like, within the first 10 minutes, she's like, Amanda, this is very controversial. And I was like, what?
Remember, I told you this. I was like, because when we went back and talked about it, you were like, okay, it's probably this thing. Because we talked about it was probably the Kanye thing. That's most likely what it was. But then as we started talking about it, you're like, it could have been this.
But like, honestly, it could have been this. Every single thing is a joke. Everything I say, like even like the, you know,
means nothing to them.
Your Klansman somewhere gets his hood when you say white power 3 times. Like, that's like ridiculous. It's not.
It's a hilarious joke, but jokes don't make sense. Real quick, listen, whoever this chick is calling me out in the comments, I don't know what your deal is. But thanks for being
She's
here.
hot.
I appreciate the support. She is kind of a hottie though.
Yeah, she's hot. You should you like your redheads?
Yeah, maybe I'll hit her up, see what her profile looks like. Damn, she's kind of a hottie.
Be like, slide into her DMs.
Right now. Yeah. We'll have to send her a message and find out what's going on.
She said, ew, stop.
Yeah.
Oops, we both hit it at the same time.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, there was an episode of the show Community. I don't know if you ever watched the show Community.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So there was a D&D episode that they did where Ken Jeong, an Asian man, dressed up in, and not, when I say blackface, I don't mean like, hi, I'm a black person with darker skin. Straight up black paint on his body face because he was playing a dark elf. And everybody was like, oh, dude, come on, man, that's blackface. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm a dark elf, blah, blah, blah. They banned that episode. It's pulled now because it was racially insensitive. But the thing is, he wasn't making... It was an Asian guy making a joke about playing a character that's a dark elf. That's nothing to do with black people, but it didn't matter because they're like, hey, that's blackface. All blackface is bad blackface, even if it's not really blackface.
The zero tolerance policy, it drives me nuts because we can't have conversations. Because like literally, yes, I made a lot of spicy jokes in that video that got the hate speech warning and got banned. Not this last one, but from the first one. And it's just like the whole point of the video was like, hey, don't be racist. Like that was
Yeah.
the video I was responding to, was a video about group differences and how really we're all blah blah blah. And it was like we can't see was it the forest for the trees or whatever? Like I'm just so
Yeah, missing the
sick of
forest for the
this. Like
trees. Yeah. Yeah.
it drives me nuts because like I really that's why I'm kind of hesitant to even make the sketch because I'm like, if I could get my whole channel nuked, but also I'm like, I want to be a truth teller. That's literally what they called me at Crazy Lady Horse Camp. They're like, you're
Who
the truth
called you
teller
that?
in your family and all your
The
relationships.
people
What?
did the therapists call you that, or did the horses call
Yes.
you that?
the horse the horses were the therapists.
I was waiting for
That's what
that.
equine therapy is,
What are you
dumbass.
talking about? You go there, the horses fucking talk to you, and they work you through
Yeah.
your problems.
Like what I don't know what's so hard to grasp about that, Mike.
Yeah.
But yeah, well no, because it was funny because I remember one time in group there was this girl, and she like the therapist always treated her with kid gloves, so they'd let her dominate group, they'd let her interrupt people, they'd let her like do whatever she wanted and like respond to people's stories and like pass judgments on them. But like the whole point was like, no, this is supposed to be a place where people can share their fucking traumas. And the whole
Yeah.
rule is it's kind of like it was kind of like a 12-step thing where you let people finish talking and then you don't there's no crosstalk.
Yeah.
And they were letting her, and it was making me so mad because I'm like, y'all are supposed to be like the protective parents here. You're supposed to be the ones who are like, whatever, and you're not doing your thing. So at the end, when we're going around the group sharing our like, whatever we learned that day, they saw that I was like shaking and I was just mad. And she's like, what's going on? And I was like, honestly, I'm fucking pissed. Royally pissed. No, I'm just kidding. Like the Game Feel sketch.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Did
so
you
she
tell them why you were
basically,
pissed?
oh yeah, to the whole group, and that's why they were like, and like people afterwards were like thank you so much for like, speaking up for us and whatever, and like the therapist like, and she didn't have a problem with it. She was like, yeah, you're the truth teller, and so like that was my thing. I was a truth teller and I was chain breaker. I got some pretty cool names there, because I wrote one of the assignments they gave us was like writing a story, like writing a fairy tale like about your life, and mine was called The Girl Who Was Born a Sword. And it was this whole thing, and the sword was born a sword. And like the thing is, the title's kind of a spoiler, but it was actually really fucking good. Like I want to make it into a short or something, like an animated thing. But yeah, it was like a girl who was born and the parent, everybody's like, oh yeah, I can't hold you. You're too sharp. You're like, and so they made, she didn't know what she looked like. So she thought she was this like sharp, awful monster. And then eventually like one day she's like, oh fuck, I'm a goddamn sword. Okay. Like, it's like, she never saw herself. There was no mirrors in her home or whatever. Anyway, all that stuff is rambling, but, Crazy Lady Horse Camp. Oh yeah. And that's why I'm the truth teller basically, is that in Crazy Lady Horse Camp, I was the one who would call out the fucking therapist. And I don't usually do that. I'm not usually that person. But if you get me like enough, like whatever, like you push me beyond a boundary, I'm like, yo, these were the rules we set so that everybody felt heard and everybody felt safe. And you're letting her do it because what? Her parents pay full price? Because if you had insurance, they weren't making as much. But there were some rich people who were paying 30 grand a month. Like insurance covered mine partially, but for her, like her parents were just paying. So like they're going to let her do whatever the fuck she wants. And I was not okay with that. I'm like, nah, she doesn't get to like break the rules just because her parents, drop you 30 grand. Not if you're going to like fuck up my friends over here.
Yeah. You should have pushed her
I'm just
in front
going
of
off
a horse.
thing. I should have. And I should have been like, oops, I'm the truth teller.
Yeah.
That's
chain breaker.
Chain breaker.
I don't know what to tell you. Bitch is dead
you
now.
look like a chain to me. I don't know. I just
You like how we just undid all of the therapy just to talk about murdering this person because they fucked up therapy. Yeah.
How do you know that I didn't? How do you know that that's not why maybe I got kicked out of Crazy Lady Horse Camp for murdering a girl?
I mean, I would not. It wouldn't be something that I'd be surprised about at this point. You really like this. This is the thing.
I'm the neck breaker.
That's like how people earn. Yeah, that's how like werewolves earn deed names. That's how they earn names. Is like they do cool stuff and then they get names for it. So, look at you being, daywalker. Truth
That's pretty cool. I do have
chain breaker. Yeah.
A lot of like but yeah, it's like daywalker, chain breaker, and truth teller. I kind of these are kind of cool.
Think about that statement before you said it.
What, a lot of
That's what makes it. You're like a lot of ers. Yeah.
What is that? What is that?
Never mind.
I'm just saying, like,
if you haven't thought about where that could go, we'll just move on. Yeah, white Mike murderer. Yeah. But
I
did you
get
think
it. You mean
about?
like the
Yeah,
hard?
okay.
I should. You know what I should have said? I should have been
A
like, there's
lot
a
of
lot of
hard
hard
R's.
R's.
There's a
Yeah,
lot
hard
of hard
R's.
R's in
That.
that. Yeah, not truth teller, truth teller.
True.
Yeah,
So, oh my god, I want to do a reaction to this. Gah, I want to do so much long form stuff. I have to wait, but I'll do it. Um, but once I'm safely not banned from YouTube
yeah.
for eternity for posting stuff, I will. I want to do a reaction to a show that I completely forgot existed. It was a reality show from early 2000s, but I watched it because I remember as I watched it, I'm like, oh, this is all coming back. But you'll have to just pretend that I didn't watch it because if I do a reaction to it, then I'll I can't just be like, yeah, I remember this when I watched it 3 weeks ago. um, but it was, I think it was called Black and White or Trading Races. Trading Races sounds too convenient, so I think it was just Black and White. And it was basically they would put a white family and a black family in different, like they'd have them live in the house together, and then they put them in like makeup to make one family look white and the other one look black, and it was so racist. And then they had the white family, like the daughter had to go like do slam poetry, um, and then like the black dad who was pretending to be white had to go to like a golf country club. It was so fucking funny. But the
Wow.
crazy thing is it actually like the conversations they were having were a lot more productive because people weren't screaming at each other. Granted, this is only the first
Yeah.
episode, but like they could have disagreements because like the black dad was like, yo, like the white dad wasn't really seeing the racism because they had him go to like a car lot and he's like, I don't know, I got attention within the first 30 seconds. You know, people were like, hey, you know, looking for a car? Cool. Like they showed me around. They didn't ignore me. Like he's like, I don't really and the white guy's dad is an immigrant. So
Okay.
he's like my dad like worked from the ground up. So I know how hard it is, but he never let it
Oh
stop him.
no, I found
What?
it.
It's
Oh
it's
my
pretty great.
god.
It's
Oh my
pretty great.
god.
It's weird.
No. I
It's weird because they picked the dad to be like this like curmudgeonly white guy, but like in watching it now, I kind of agree with a lot of stuff he said. Y'all should check it out.
yeah,
It's
but
so
like I
good.
just pulled it up. I don't even know if I could show that picture of the dad cuz he's just like
Just
cuz
do it. We'll say he's West Indian or something.
cuz that's what he looks like. It looks Oh god. All right, let me pull up let me find it on Google specifically instead of YouTube. Um Wow, they just straight up they're like, listen, I'm gonna make this guy look black. Hold on just a second, because I
They put like prosthetics and stuff. They gave him like nappy hair and stuff. But then like the white family,
holy
the
shit.
black family does not pass at all because like you can add masks to faces with stuff, but you can't take things away. So the mom just has this. She just has a busted ass wig. Like it's not even laying flat.
Like, guys, I like what is that? That looks like Eddie Murphy's sketch of white
On,
people.
honestly though, him and his son were probably the most convincing. Everybody else just looks like weirdly uh
Yeah. It's not giving me like really good
like
ones,
he
but
like
oh my god. He kind of looked slightly black already.
right. He looks
Like he
kind of
has like
mixed.
yeah, but like uh,
Uh, you know, he kind of looks a
oh
little bit like
no.
when he's black, he looks a little bit like ABBA from ABBA and Preach.
God
Like
damn.
with ABBA's nose isn't that big, but like
Good lord.
it's just like maybe that like Ethiopian skin coloring or something.
This is so
I
bad, but I love that you remembered this.
Well, no, it
Oh
was
my
we were
god.
doing I was doing a movie night with some of my friends and then we couldn't figure out what to watch and then one of them just started being like, "Hey, do you remember this show called Trading Races?" And he was describing it. And I was like, "That sounds incredible. We need to watch that right now." And then I started watching it and all the memories started coming back. I'm like, "I remember watching this show when it was on."
Wow. Yeah, it's called Black Dot White or Black White, like all cap. Yeah. Oh my god, you once we can get you once the first strike falls off your channel, we need to immediately
It
get you
won't.
another one by watching this.
It
Well,
won't.
the
Apparently
warning stays on your
warning
channel, but
stays
the
forever.
yes, but the strike falls off.
Oh, I don't have
So
a strike here. I have a strike on
okay,
I have a strike on TikTok. Uh
gotcha. Well, then you just just get your TikTok nuked. That's fine. Yeah.
this is my second TikTok though. Or second for Daywalker. I've had other ones for other accounts, but yeah. And so we're gonna try
Wow.
maybe have to do a new one, like a
I
third
like
time's the
how
charm.
I like how with all of this, like they have black white, then they have like Vision and Wanda.
Vision and Wanda. I guess because it's
Yeah.
black and white like film.
Well, have you
but,
heard
like,
of the Viz Sean
no.
meme? Yeah, they made like Vision a black. They basically were like, oh, he's a black guy. He's like a black dad. And so like somebody started like doing edits of him wearing like a turtleneck and like a gold chain, and like he was like all his teeth were like grilled out and stuff.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it was like it was pretty bad. But yeah,
And
wow,
just like your
I can't
dad
believe that show was real.
out there.
Yeah, just like
What?
my dad.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nope. You already said it. It's too late
I
now.
already did.
Yeah, there's Viz Sean.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they gave him a do rag. That was, yeah. He's like, nah, married him. Kids don't even look like me. Like,
She got the braids.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
funny.
God, yeah,
Oh
the
my God.
internet's
And like
undefeated.
and the whole show is like not that it's not like, oh, she's grieving him. It's that he like went to the store for cigarettes and never came back. And she's just like, no,
She
my
just
baby
imagined,
daddy.
yeah. It's just her imagining that her black robot husband didn't leave her.
Yeah.
Like, that's the trauma. Like, oh,
He
shit.
actually just lives down the street.
Yeah.
Like he just won't come back. Like he's
Oh,
got the
God.
septum piercing and everything.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is going on with the internet, bro? Like, this is out of control.
I like as Shield Wall calls it when you just go to the store and don't come back in a 1950s divorce.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Just went out for a pack of Virginia Slims, and there was a lady there
Yeah.
who was holding up the store, and
What was I supposed to do? Oh god, dude. Yeah, the internet's kind of undefeated. Well,
I'm going I'm all over the. Go ahead, sorry.
yeah. No, you're good. I'm kind of stuck on this whole blackface thing right now because
Great.
like now I'm remembering this. Yeah, what might as well, right?
Yeah.
You've seen Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Did you hear about the guy? He was a Virginia councilman who he wanted sexual chocolate for Halloween.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah, and yeah, let me see if I can pull it up because, dude, the thing that's a bummer, he got in trouble for it and he immediately erased it. But then I think he got fired for it. But this was his costume. I was like,
He
listen,
looks great.
he looks fucking amazing. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, listen, if you're gonna do it, like, is it offensive? Slightly, yeah. Okay, like a little bit, but at the same time. There's people that like do blackface and you're like, okay, you know what? You're being a caricature. You're being kind of a dick. Like, that's gross or whatever. Like, oh, look at me. I'm going to dress like, I'm going to be Eddie Murphy. That's not what he did. Right. He took a character that Eddie Murphy played and did it. And not only that, but he did it fucking well. That's not shitty makeup. This man really committed to the bit. Like, look at how good that makeup looks. Look, he got the shitty, like... Yeah, Eddie Murphy was sexual chocolate. Look right there. That's Eddie Murphy. That's the original sexual chocolate.
So he did,
See, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah. But he really did it like this. Yeah.
Is this the guy who sang Soul Glow?
Yeah.
Soul
that was
Glow.
Yes. Yep. I think he was in the Soul Glow commercials or whatever. Yeah. Well, and he was also at a church function or whatever singing and like trying to, he was trying to like raise money or some shit like that at the, yeah.
And to me, this guy should have been the makeup artist for Black and White because his actual pigmenting looks way more realistic than the ones on the show. Because also on the show, like their eyes kept fading away. But this guy, I don't know. I don't know why. For me, it wouldn't be offensive because part of me is like, oh, you've seen Coming to America, you have good taste, and you know, like it's like a deep cut character, or not deep.
That's exactly it.
You know, like, obviously
I would argue that's a deep cut. No.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And once again, like I'm not advocating for blackface because this is the thing. And we've talked about this before, but it's in general it's part of Amanda's frustration, which I agree with. Like context really does matter. And the idea that bothers me is that somebody would go, okay, like all comedy or all things should be acceptable. So then you know that people are going to try to test the waters. And to me, that's not funny. That's just being edgy. Like
Right.
when, when Elon Musk took over Twitter and then people were freaking out, they're like, the use of the N word has increased by like 500% since he took over. I'm like, yeah, people are testing the waters. It's
Yeah, they're
stupid.
just being edge lords. Like they're not.
They're just, but yeah, because it's not like being an edge lord in and of itself. Being an edge lord is not funny. What's funny about being an edge lord is when the context of you being an edge lord is parodying being an edge lord. Like
Right,
people
and
that are
it's
really
saying
edge lords.
something.
Yeah, exactly. Because most edgelords are like stupid teenagers, and that's not
Hmm.
a knock on teenagers, but like they're testing the boundaries of what's funny and what they can say because they're learning that I have independence and I can say things that I couldn't normally say because I'd get in trouble with my parents and things. That's like where that all comes from. So a person never grew up out of that and realizes that that's what's going on. Very funny. Somebody that's just
Hmm.
doing it to do it, it's not funny, and that's the issue. And that's always the risk with comedy. If you do a sketch about trying to get into the KKK because you got called racist on the internet and it's not funny, nobody's laughing, and now you look like an asshole. But
Mm.
because it is funny, like it should be, I think the context should be allowed in that you should be allowed to take those chances to try to be funny. And if you're not funny, guess what? Then you don't get attention. People
Yeah.
don't pay attention to you, and most people will like shame you for it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the thing is like most people got the joke. At least on Twitter and Instagram they're like, "Oh, like this is
Yeah.
funny." Cuz I was making fun of the fact of like, was it like Larry it was back when Larry Elder got called the Blackface of White Supremacy, or even, with the cops who the cops who did that horrible the was it Tyree Nichols or something? Like the ones in Memphis
Oh,
who
the
like beat that
recently?
guy to
Yeah.
death. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were all black, but I see
All
people trying to
black.
justify it, saying, "Oh, it's still white supremacy," even though it's a majority black precinct. So it's not like, oh, they have white like superiors. Like I think the head of the police department there is also black. So like it frustrates me because it's the same thing that has always frustrated me about this. Oh, we have different standards for different races. Is like you're basically, like they'll be like, oh, all white people are school shooters, white people are mass murderers. Like, oh, you guys are, you're the majority is like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But then if we do something, oh, well, that's systemic. It's still somehow white people's fault. I'm like, why don't you hold individuals accountable for their action? I agree. Don't hold groups accountable, but
Yeah.
individuals, it drives me fucking insane because they don't realize what they're saying is, oh, well, we don't give white people an excuse for bad behavior because we expect more out of them. That's how
Yeah.
I receive it. When they say, oh, well, black people, well, okay, but like you have to think about the systemic things that led up to that action as if somehow we are not autonomous, as if somehow we can't make up our own minds, that our minds are made up
Yeah.
for us. Like that to me is white supremacy, like full stop. That's literally saying white
Yeah.
people have the moral ability to be moral, ability to make decisions, ability to be fully cognizant of what they're doing. But
Yeah.
everybody else doesn't because we're brown, because white people, it's just it makes no
A hundred
logical sense to
percent.
me.
100%. And you're not, but that's the idea of racism, is treating people like they're inferior. And the thing is, treating somebody like you're inferior does not always mean go, I don't like you because you have dark skin. Like there is that kind of racism out there, yes. But the difference is, but like you said, once that stopped becoming socially acceptable, then it
Right, they
was,
had to hide
okay,
it.
well, how do we hide it? And this isn't even necessarily a conscious decision. That's why it's so insidious. But like the fact is, you go, oh, they're, oh, well, they need help. Like a really good example I think of that, and it reminds me of this, is in the movie Remember the Titans, which obviously is very much about racism and
Mhm.
like the team overcoming. But there's a section in that where the white coach is talking to Denzel Washington, and he's like, um, you're being too hard on these kids or whatever. He's like, being too hard on what kids? He's like, when I come down on like one of your white players, I don't see you pull them aside and talk to them and try to help them. He goes, when I come down on this guy or get in this guy's face, I don't see you going, hey man, like take it easy on this white player. He goes, it seems like the only people you're upset about me being mean to are the black students or like the black players. He goes, I'm the same mean cuss with everybody because that's how it's going to be. And that's what I expect from all my players, regardless of what they look like. But that's it right there. He was trying to point out, hey, guess what? You treating these kids with kid gloves is not doing them any favors. So like
Mhm.
pretending like, oh, well, there's a curve for people they don't understand. It's like, well, if there needs to be a curve for a group of people that are struggling, you need to figure out why there needs to be a curve and solve that issue. Like, you can
Right.
help people that are in the margins get out of the margins, but you need to figure out why they're in the margins in the first place. And that's the thing, like, it's the idea of like forcing schools to like there was a that happened where we're at right now, where I live in like a not a great area, and there was a school here that was like really bad. It had a really bad reputation. The students in there, like, there's a lot of violence and gang violence and guns and all kinds of crazy stuff that was going on at that school. So the school board eventually decided to dissolve it, and then they basically split the kids up into different like schools and sent them into different schools, and they're like, hey, you guys got to go here, go here, go here, and stuff like that. But the argument that was being made was, why aren't we trying to figure out why this is happening in this school? Like, why aren't we trying to like better that and fix that? And a lot of times, and you already know this, and a lot of people like don't seem to come to this conclusion, or struggle, or eventually do, but it takes a little bit. A lot of times it's the system itself, it's not the people. A lot of times the system, and it's not inherently racist, like in that, like, oh, the system hates black people. No, sometimes the system is just really corrupt. Like, the fact
Mm.
is, like, they're like, oh, well, part of the reason is because money goes to these schools, because, or the better teachers go to these schools because there's more incentives at these schools, or what, and different things like that. Like, you start to find that the system itself doesn't really care what you look like. It just cares how
Mm.
can it manipulate you and put you in a position where you're dependent on it to make the decisions for you.
Right.
So,
And they do that with everybody. Like, people don't realize
yes.
that. Like, yes, they did it to black people, but they're doing it to people now. Like, they're trying to make it like in Georgia, for whatever reason, in Atlanta, it's weird. Atlanta you would think would be more strict, but I can actually have like backyard animals as long as I have enough room for them. So they're actually more
Yeah.
lax. But then in Columbus, down where Mac and actually I don't know, Mac, are you in Columbus too? But my friend Elizabeth down there, it's more rural, but for whatever reason, the city council will not allow them to have backyard chickens, so they
No.
can't have their own eggs. It's just like
Yeah.
bizarre. Like, they're trying to make people dependent on stuff, and it's just that's okay. That's my thing. Is like, yes, we have seen stuff that held people back before, but I would honestly say a lot of stuff that holds us back is us, and that's not like a brilliant revelation, but like in school, I was in AP classes in high school, and I was like maybe one of two or three black kids in those classes, and the black kids at school were the ones saying like, "Oh, you're trying to be white,"
Yeah.
because I was in those classes, as if
Yeah.
somehow being black was like that it was mutually exclusive to be a person of color or whatever we say. I can't say colored people, even though it's funny to me. I do say that, and then I'm like trying to not get struck. I'm like, but yeah, you can't be colored and
I like how you
and
still
also be
throw it out
smart is what
there.
they're implying. Hmm?
Yeah. No, I like how you still throw it out there. Like, I'm not supposed to say colored
I know.
people, but I said it
I'm
anyway.
acknowledging that I've been told I'm not supposed to say it. My
Yeah.
agent, well, I'll remind me later that my voiceover agent has seen my stuff now, and she's like, "Yeah, I think you're right to keep this separate from my voiceover career."
She's like, I see. I see the vision now. I see it.
It
And we
was
should
a
keep it over
whole
here. Yeah.
yeah. I see it. I envision my vision. I see your vision. My vision for it is in the closet. It's like hidden away, like the
Yeah.
crazy aunt who wears a veil, like Miss Havisham, just like in the attic, just like
Yeah, like a crazy
remembering the
person who wears
day.
a veil and lace gloves for the death of their
Hmm.
AI boyfriend. Just keep it hidden, far away. Yeah, I
Yeah,
imagine that was a good
like
conversation. Yeah,
this whole channel really is like me learning to come into myself, because for so long I'm like I have to be this thing, and now I've become this. Like I've always been this. I was always like the weird theater kid who would like dress up. I think I mentioned it before, but I used to make videos and stuff, but I stopped. Like, I would just improvise as different characters and different wigs and like do whatever. There's some of them on my YouTube, my actor YouTube, my Amanda C. Miller thing. But I stopped because my friends were like, "Oh, we thought you were losing your mind." So like I stopped being creative because of what other people thought, because they didn't understand my vision. Because I
they're
think they're
like, "Are
funny,
you?"
but they
Yeah, they're like, "Are you okay, Amanda?" And you're like, "Oh, you don't understand." Oh, yeah. And now
yeah,
she's just
exactly. I'm
hoarding
like,
all her props and costumes and yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, to me, it's like I don't know. I want to bring back the authenticity that I liked. Like, that's what I liked about YouTube when I first like started
Yeah.
watching it. And I'm seeing it go away. I'm seeing more and more polished stuff. Yes.
She just had that
Um,
ready to go. Yeah. Yeah.
and
100%. Yeah.
I just want people to feel like, oh, this person's fucking weird, like, or like, but I'm fucking weird. Okay, I guess I don't have to feel so weird about it. And maybe they'll go out in the world and feel more comfortable socializing. Maybe they'll make more friends because they're like, well, maybe if there's a weirdo like her out there, maybe there'll be a weirdo like me out there,
Yeah.
So,
100%. Well, I mean, I mean, I think, because we're pretty close in age, that was what YouTube was when we were like really, when
mm,
YouTube started getting big enough that people were noticing it and like watching it. That was what YouTube was. It was just a bunch of people being individuals and being weird and like doing their own thing. And you had such a plethora of people doing so many different things. You had people that were just like, hey, I just play music and I'm singing and I got big on YouTube because that's what I do. And you had people acting like assholes and being crazy and doing weird stunts and stuff. I mean, the precursor to that was like watching Jackass, where it was just a bunch of dudes literally just hurting themselves and being stupid, like on camera for whatever, but that was the reason it was so like popular, was because people are like, oh my god, we love that somebody's just willing to be an idiot, like we're all being idiots, because we've all done
mm,
stupid shit like that as kids. But just to watch somebody like concentrate it into a show form and then just like make that like their whole shtick, it was awesome to watch. And like you said, watching YouTube and watching it slowly curate content and watching them like take episodes away from like channels, or taking pulling episodes from channels and stuff that like we used to watch. Like there was like when I was watching YouTube, one of my favorite groups was the Cancer Crew, which was like Filthy Frank, iDubbbz, Max Mofo, H3H3 before he went crazy was part of that group. There was like a
interesting.
whole group of the YouTube guys. Go ahead.
What was he like before he became like, I don't know, Hassan
So
Piker's like butt boy?
so what was weird is that like he was one of the few people that actually did reactions really well. And, like a lot of it was reacting to other YouTubers, but that was what he kind of got big for. Was he'd go find people on YouTube and react to their content, whether good or bad, and sometimes call people out and stuff, which is what caused the fair use thing to get brought into question, because he was the first one for there to ever be legal action against with a fair use like lawsuit, because he basically reacted to a guy's YouTube channel and they called him out, and the guy got pissed and was like, I'm going to sue you for using my content and copyright infringing, even though YouTube's policy says if you react to content and you add to it, or you're adding like commentary to it or whatever, that you can do it and it's considered fair use. But the thing is,
YouTube
YouTube
doesn't
doesn't
even
really,
follow that rule.
they don't follow that rule, but but somebody was like, hey, I'm gonna cause legal action, I'm gonna bring legal action against them, and they ended up winning the lawsuit after like 2 years. I love that like she keeps trying to go back to the tea though. But like, I mean, that was a big
I'm
thing, back
hydrating.
then, and I really enjoyed his content. He used to be really funny, and that was what he got good at. And he used to do like sketches and stuff too. But there was just like this group of guys that were just like unapologetically stupid and ridiculous and stuff like that. And it's funny because this is Filthy Frank's statement on his channel. This has always been there. This has been there since he started his channel as Filthy Frank. And it's funny to me because this is what kind of like a summation of what we were talking about, but it works. He said, Filthy Frank is the embodiment of everything a person should not be. He's anti-PC, anti-social, and anti-couth. He behaves and reacts excessively to everything, expressly to highlight the ridiculousness of racism, misogyny, legalism, injustice, ignorance, and other social blights. He also sets an example to show how easy it is in the social media for any zany material to gain traction following by simply sharing unsavory opinions and joking about the topics that many find offensive. There's no denying that the show is terribly offensive, but this terrible offensiveness is a deliberate and unapologetic parody of the whole social media machine and a reflection of the human microcosm that the social media is. Or maybe I'm just fucking retarded. And I'm like, to me, that's kind of like, I'm not saying that that's like the end of the subject, but like, that's a summation of what we're talking about. Like, the idea should be, if you want to talk about or comment on what people are doing, what the internet's like, the ridiculousness of racism, you should be able to. There's
Right.
like, the point is, the offense is for the people that do it and mean it. but those people are few and far between, and typically
Mhm.
those people don't get any actual traction. But the argument that's being made today is, well, now there's consequences, and that's what people don't like. Like, there was always consequences for being racist.
Mm.
Like, you didn't,
Well,
like,
not always.
well, not, you know what I mean. I
In
mean,
modern days.
in modern days, I should say, yeah, since they got rid of the whole, yeah, you're not a person thing if your
I'd
skin's
say
dark.
back in the even like my dad used to show me pictures of like white people at picnics and there were black people hanging in trees and this was
Yeah,
like the 50s. So
yeah,
like I'm
the
not
lynching and
saying,
stuff.
when people say racism wasn't a big deal, I'm like, no, it was a big deal.
Yeah,
And
it was.
the cops were like chill about it. They give you a wink and a nod, but
Yes.
that being
Yeah,
said,
in modern day, I
that
should say modern day. Yeah,
and
like
I'm not trying to correct you in that thing. I'm trying to for the
yeah,
audience explain like when I talk about racism, that's kind of what I'm referring to is like that kind of shit.
yeah,
Like not the modern day racism that's like whatever the postmodern definition is where it's kind of like power equals whatever. So,
yeah.
continue. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. No, you're fine. But like that's the thing. The argument that's being made today is like we don't want racists to have power. Like you said, like we don't want there some guy to be spouting racist ideals on the internet and then people listen to him and then they become racists. So I'm like, that's not how racism works. If somebody's being an asshole and people want to like agree with them, they're gonna agree with them whether they see it or not because it's how they
Right,
feel
and
on the. Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
I keep interrupting. I'm sorry.
No, you're
You
fine.
know how
That's true.
whatchamacallit, you want to know how you create a racist? You don't let them speak or ask questions and you tell them that they're a bad person inherently for being white and you ostracize them from the internet so that they have nowhere else to go. So then they go to dark corners of the internet where there's other people like them or not who
Yep.
maybe not aren't even like them but other people who welcome them and then
Yeah.
they make them like them. I've seen that so many times, like people who became bitter and felt like, like their life was shit, and then they get told, "Oh, you're a white man, nobody cares about your problems." So then, if you're a teenager,
Yeah.
you're lonely. You go on the internet, you start going on, I don't know, 8chan or wherever people go, and then you start people. You're just sharing memes, and then it can devolve. So like, yes,
Yeah.
there are still racists out there. There are still people like recruiting and whatnot, but the best way to do it is to send them straight into their arms by
Yeah.
dehumanizing them and making them feel
Yeah.
like a bad person for something they didn't even do.
Yep.
Like fuck that
And
shit.
making them resent the people that you're trying to protect by preventing them from
Mm-hmm.
interacting with those people. Yeah.
Yep. Especially when most of those people don't even feel that way. That's the thing is when
Yeah.
I live in Atlanta. Talk to most of these people around here. You call them BIPOC. Hell, when I first moved here, there were family members that I had never met, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what we were supposed to say because I was moving from California at the time, so I was still very much like programmed. And so I said African American on the phone, and she started laughing at me. She's like, "You mean
Yeah.
black?" So yeah, that was like a couple years ago. But
Yeah.
like,
And then man, it was like, no, I meant African American. I meant
well, I was just like,
BIPOC. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, because well, I don't know. It's just funny that like actual black people don't spend most of them don't spend all their time on the internet policing people's language. I feel like I see mostly white allies doing it, or some black people who are more like into like Marxism and whatnot, or I don't know, want to bitch about stuff. But like
Yeah.
most low they for a long time they've documented that lower class whites and lower class blacks have way more in common and could actually like get along way better than blacks who are upper class and lower class. Like the race thing was not what united people. It was
Yeah.
actually
It's
people's
typically
position
money.
in life. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
money, it's socioeconomic status or education or trauma background. Like a trailer park kid might have a very similar home life to somebody who's in the projects. Like it just sucks that we put these artificial boundaries between people. And I like how I'm trying to have a
100%.
serious conversation with this fucking veil on, but I'm also very committed. I'm an actor.
Well, yeah, you can't take it off because then that defeats the purpose of the veil. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it.
You're supposed to be in mourning for a year. We only were together for a brief amount of time, so I probably can like do a fraction of that, but
But
I want to
also, you
respect
just don't
him.
want to take off the veil. It has nothing to do with White Mike. The
It's
way,
actually
like,
very
how
annoying
excited
to have this on.
yeah, but the level of excitement you had when you saw that shirt and you were like, oh, and you were like, oh, and you were like putting it on, yeah. But no, I agree, and I don't like. I know we don't always like talk about like news stuff, and we're not like, this show is not about like outrage and being like, oh my god, look what happened and blah 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 blah. But I think it's interesting because it's kind of topical to what we're talking about right now. Did you see the whole story about the Roald Dahl books?
No, but I love Roald Dahl. Are they coming for him? Because
Okay.
I will
Yeah,
decapitate every single
so
one of them.
they apparently, the company that has access to his books, they republished a bunch of his books, and they actually censored and like changed the language in the books. Yeah, so I'll pull this up real quick for you because, like I said, we don't normally talk about this stuff, but I think this was important. I didn't know if Amanda was gonna like, yeah, I didn't know she had seen this or not yet. So this is from NPR. So new editions of legendary works by British author Roald Dahl are being edited to remove words that we could deemed offensive to some readers, according to the Late Writers Company. Let me see here if they have actual section. Yeah. So the character Augustus Gloop in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is no longer called fat. Instead, he is described as enormous.
How is that better? If somebody was come up to me and be like, "Hey, you fat bitch," I'd be like, "Oh, that hurts my feelings." If somebody says, "Hey, bitch, you enormous,"
You're enormous. You're like, wow, you really went. You have to dig in to like find a big. Like they found a bigger word that's like more sophisticated to describe. Yeah,
kind of just fat, bro.
yeah. Instead of being called small men, Oompa Loompas are now small people. Further changes these
This
books
is satire.
and
This has to be satire.
no,
who
this is
wrote
100% real. This is 100%
Who
real.
wrote this and what's the date? Is it April 1st?
This is NPR. This is NPR. This is February 21st, 2023. This is legitimately real. This is like honestly really happening. Yeah. Further changes to these books include adding language not originally written by Dahl. In his 1983 book, The Witches, he writes that witches are bald beneath their wigs. According to The Telegraph, an added line in New Edition says, there are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there is certainly nothing wrong with that. This is not satire. This is NP fucking R reporting on this.
I mean, which one could argue has become its own form of satire. But yes,
yeah. I know what you meant, but yeah. Wait, it gets better. Yeah. I'm trying to see where else.
Fat, he's enormous.
He's enormous.
Giant fucking mammoth, but he's not fat. We're not rude here.
Yeah. Don't call him fat though. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, the witches. They're like, listen, like, there are plenty of other reasons why women might wear wigs, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. It reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where they were like talking about like people being gay, but like, not that there's anything wrong with that. And it's like, that was a comedy bit, and now they're like, yeah. Yep.
That's so funny. And when you said it just now, I thought you said there's other reasons why white women wear wigs, and I was like, oh, interesting. They're actually one of my favorite jokes that a friend told me was, she was like, girl, the biggest lie the devil ever told was that white women don't wear weaves.
That's actually amazing.
Like people think wigs and weaves are just a black lady thing, but nah, white girls wear them all the time. So I thought this was commenting on that at first.
Yeah, that was like the whole thing. They just wanted to add more inclusion for like weaves and wig wearing, and that's what people are really upset about. No, yeah, I mean, like... it's yeah, they apparently removed a whole thing in Fantastic Mr. Fox where it talks about these black mechanical monstrosities. They removed the word black because they felt that was offensive, because apparently any use of the word black is definitely referring to black people.
Just responding to Ben real quick. Okay, so bald people aren't allowed to exist. I actually agree with that one. I don't think bald people should have rights, just like I don't think theater kids should have rights. There's many people that I think should have them revoked, and then we should have to prove ourselves.
Yeah.
What you just said about the black thing. It's funny though to me, because if my brain wouldn't instantly go there, but yours does, that makes me think that you're racist. Because like you're like, oh well, they said machines, beasts, and when I think of beasts, I think of black people. So I'm like to me, I'm like, oh, wait, what? You're like,
wait, what? Yeah. It's like that thing.
Like,
the whole thing with D&D where they were like, hey, orcs can't have racial traits because orcs are standing for black people. I'm like, since when? Like, well,
I know
like, they're athletic and they're dumb and they're good at sports and they're strong and they get like, and you're like,
they got their big old mouths and stuff. Like, did they actually say that, or
mouth tusk? No, that was actually a controversial thing because people felt like orcs were standing within D&D, the D&D setting for black people. Yeah. So they that's why they've actually removed in like D&D, they've actually been removing like racial traits and racial feats and racial restrictions because they're like, "Hey, that's not fair to people to be like, "Hey, you have to be like a hobbit that's like this is not even a joke. It's not fair to put like a person that wants to play a hobbit and say, "Oh, you run slower than everybody else because you're small." Like that's not fair to people because like where's the fun in that? And I'm like the fun is the fact that you played a tiny person that
Right.
like is this tall. They can't run as fast as a person that's 7 foot tall and has a massive stride.
It has like
Just how that
longer legs.
works.
What is that, like a
Yeah.
fulcrum or whatever in physics? But it's like,
Yeah.
are we seriously doing this gaslighting in our games too? Where we're like,
Yes.
short people can totally run as fast as tall people. There's no biological differences between tall people and short people. You're all equally good athletes. It's like, oh Jesus Christ. This is not this
Yeah.
is these people are not real people. These are terminally online people, and I bet you most people who play D&D don't give a fuck. It's like
They don't.
a couple people on Twitter and then the people who run the company, because people who run companies are fucking stupid and they think that social media represents the masses when they don't. Like
Yeah.
I don't comment on things very often, like on strangers' things. Like I'll read an article, I'll laugh at a meme, I'll laugh at a video. I never comment, even if I love it. I don't comment on it. Maybe five
Yeah.
times in a year. So the type of person who's going to comment on a lot of stuff, and get in fights with people is a certain type of person. They're already somebody
Yeah.
who's a little bit more controversial, in your face, out there, wants to like do battle or whatever. So it's just crazy to me. I can't with the stupid today. And I'm saying that as
Yeah, I
somebody
get it.
who wears a veil and was talking about getting therapy from a
And she's like,
horse.
I can't with this
I
fucking stupid
can't.
people. Oh
I
my
can't.
god. And she like pulls her veil back to like try to drink her tea.
This feels
It's
very. See, now I'm feeling more like a Lady Gaga. Like I'm a performance artist, and this will just
yeah.
become part of my shtick. It's like Daywalker, just like is the comedian who like makes racist jokes and wears a veil.
Yeah. At what point do you have a performance artist throw up on you during one of your
Mm.
performances? To...
I threw up a little bit earlier in my mouth. I was signing something, and I kept throwing up in my mouth. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I think it's because I was so nervous because I was signing something. This is how bad my anxiety is. So I get,
You're like, I was throwing up earlier. You're like,
literally, like I was like, what's happening? But I think
yeah.
it's because I was so nervous. Okay, so through my actor website, you can get like autographs and stuff like for the characters I do, and you can send in your prints and get your stuff signed, and I'll send it back, whatever. But there's one guy that's like so particular. He literally was like, I don't like this. I'll send it back. I want my money back. And he's like, I found a print online that's much more of an upgrade than the one you sent. Even though he can see the picture, the poster, and it's a perfectly fine poster. Most people have no problem with it. But he's like, I found a bigger one that's better and whatever. And so I was like, okay. So I returned his money, and then he bought a new order recently, and he gave me like 7 pages of instructions on how he wants it signed, what color it should be, not too spaced out, but he also doesn't want you to do it within an inch of the margins because he's going to put a frame on it, but also the color has to pop, but it also has to be big enough that blah 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 blah, and also he wants this in black, this in pink. He gave me a diagram of the picture, which I actually appreciate. He blocked off the areas, and it wrote not to scale on it, and he wants this, a quote here, personal message here, autograph, date. And so I'm sitting here like, don't fuck it up. Because if you fuck up somebody's print, like you can't fix it. Like if I fuck up something I'm giving you, like one of my posters, I can give you another one. I can just throw it and be like, I'll start over. On yours, especially on somebody who's very particular, I'm just like,
Yeah.
don't mess this up. And so that's when I started like throwing up in my mouth. I'm like, that's literally like how I guess I internalize my anxiety. It's just like so visceral for me because I'm just like the whole time I can hear him. I can feel myself sending it, and then a day later I'm probably getting a message being like, things are too close together and it's not blah blah blah. But he wanted a quote that's like a novel, but he didn't want it too close together, and I'm just like, how am I going to respond to him? So my brain's already trying to respond to him before I've even sent it back, before I even finished fucking signing it. So yes, all that to say, I'm my own performance artist because I throw up in my own mouth. I don't need somebody else to do it for me.
The best way to do it would just be to throw up on the print and send that to him.
And I was gonna say, if it was blood, it'd be different because it's a game. It's for the game Danganronpa, which I was in, and that has a lot of blood and like, but the blood is like hot pink, which is like totally my vibe. But yeah, so I guess if I bled on it, I just like bled and just like smeared it across. I'm like, there's your autograph. I bet you he'd
Yeah.
probably love it.
Yeah.
Um,
But instead you just throw up instead. You're just
yeah, just in my
and
mouth,
you're like
just a little bit.
you
It
try to
was weird.
clean it up. He's like, I don't know what happened to my print. And he's like, I don't know either. It's
I,
probably the
the
mail
postman,
system. Yeah,
yeah, the
the
postman
postman did
probably
it.
barfed on it. This is government, right? Government's always stealing from you and throwing up on your shit.
Damn government. They always open mail and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Careful, there are some sickos who would pay for that.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would not be a very good business for me. I don't like throwing up. I will do whatever it takes to not do it. That's why I
Well, I
even
mean,
when I'm
somebody bought
even if I'm drunk,
bathwater.
I'm like, hmm,
Somebody bought that lady's bathwater. So
bathwater and vomit are very different, Mike. I don't know what you bathe in,
they
but
drink the bathwater. They probably would drink the vomit. Oh, that's so gross. Oh
yeah, you said it. You said it,
god.
and I hope this stream gets banned so nobody else ever has to hear that. Like
Yeah.
all the things we
Yeah.
said, I'm fine with all of it. I'm fine with saying colored. In fact, I think I'm gonna switch it back to colored because I just think it's actually it's less work because it's less syllables, and it makes me laugh because people's response is always like, "Oh my," but because I always say it with a southern accent too. You can't just say colored. I'm like, as a colored
Colored.
woman,
As a colored woman.
colored woman, because to me,
Colored
people of
people.
color, yeah, people of color is just a longer way of saying colored people. And I'm like, why are you making me say extra syllables? My ancestors were already slaves. I've already had to do so much work. Why are you making me work harder?
It's
This is just
because
the white man keeping me enslaved. Is
it's
what that is.
because a white guy started walking around calling people colored people. He'd get beat up. That's why.
Mhm.
So they
That's
wanted to change everybody else's language. It's kind of like that whole argument of like, why can you say it and I can't? I'm like, you can say it. There will be consequences for what you've said, based on who's in the room with you or based on who has read what you've said. It's not about the fact that you can't. It's about the fact that you know you shouldn't because you
and
know
you
what will
did it
happen
anyway.
to you. Yeah. It's like nobody's going to beat the shit out of Dave Chappelle for dropping the N-word, but somebody might, I don't know, beat up Ben Shapiro if he just dropped the N-word in one of his videos.
Oh my God, that reminds me. It was
Oh
first of all, I still
no.
have that Ben Shapiro rap that I haven't filmed yet. I'm debating it because I'm like, I really don't know if I want people to think that I'm like actually like all up on his D, but the song is funny. But no, why I brought up the trading races thing earlier was because the dad kept saying nigga, but he kept saying it in the weirdest way with like a hard. It was like a soft R, hard A, where you're like, you are on the verge, my friend. But he kept doing it that way, and he's like, it was so funny because like every time you're like, so he was because he was trying to be like, I don't understand why I can't just be like, or I don't know. He was trying to be like, so wait, when I go to the room, are they just gonna be like, what's up, my nigga, or something like it was some not it wasn't there wasn't an R. It wasn't the R. It was kind of like it
Oh
was something just
god.
weird where it wasn't like nigga. It was just like it was weird. It was something where I'm like, you clearly are trying to show that you're uncomfortable with saying this word as if you don't say it all the time, but maybe the reason that you're almost putting the R in is because you do. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know your
because
life.
because the way you're saying it right now is not how you normally say it. But you don't want to say it that way because if you drop it too comfortably, then people are like,
Right.
"Oh, you really like you've used that word before." Yeah.
It's words, and I understand. To me, it's the intention. And I've told this story before, but whatever. We'll see if I can get the stream banned. Maybe I'll experiment today. Maybe I'll show the sketch and I'll also say colored people and also say this. But some of you have been around for this. But when I was in Florida with my sister, we were in St. Augustine and her car had some trouble. We found this like backwoods mechanic and he wasn't home. So then we were driving around and you could hear this thing scraping under my sister's car. And this redneck guy was like, hey, y'all need some, whatever, some help. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, like I don't want to assume people are racist, but this guy looks like Deliverance, like old school movie racist. And I was like, and he's like, oh, come on in, I'll help you out. And so we pulled into his driveway and he had like 7, cars just like in his yard. And he just spends the next 4 hours fucking fixing our car, talking to us, telling us about his life, asking us questions. And we were just having such a great time. I was like, you know what? Like, this is such a cultural difference. Like, I wish this is what my like LA friends could see. that not every
Yeah.
white person, even the ones who look like they're like old school racists, are old school racists. Like he was talking about his neighbors. He's like, oh yeah, he might not say things right. He's like, oh yeah, we got a Mexican and a Jamaican down there, but like he was talking about them in an affectionate way. And he's like, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
protect their property when they're not, like when they're on vacation, like, I go feed their cat. Like I was like, you know what? This is Martin Luther King's dream. And then a little black kitten runs by. And I was like, oh my God, a kitty. And he's like, oh yeah, that's Niglet. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, Niglet. And in my head, I was thinking of that Tyra Banks meme from America's Next Top Model. She's like, we were all rooting for you. Like that's what it felt like in my head. I was like, Chris, I was rooting for you.
We were this close to having a beautiful moment. Yeah.
The same time, though, I still was like, I don't believe this person's racist, even though he literally has a cat that's named a racial slur. He has, so now my rubric is like, okay, yeah, you're doing all this stuff. You say you're anti-racist. You've gone to marches. You've done whatever. You blah, blah, blah. You use the right words. But I still find that people who see me as, like, oh, I'm not as capable, I'm not as smart, I'm not as whatever, because I'm brown, because they're like, systemic oppression made you that way, whatever. You are basically more of a white supremacist to me than a redneck guy with a cat named Niglet. That's my standard. Like, I'm like, more or less than him.
Boom. You even got Mary to do the, like, nail thing.
What?
She was like, listen. You were, like, doing this. You were like, listen. Let me tell you something. Yeah, I was like, damn. Girl.
I'm like a goth beekeeper with this on.
It's amazing. By the way, somebody asked if that was the shirt or if you got a real veil. No, it's still the shirt.
I did buy a veil, but it's a fascinator, so it's kind of more of like the British thing. And I put it on this morning. I'm like, this is not dramatic enough. I might transition to it at some point, like more of a casual morning, but this feels more dramatic.
She needs like the full face veil, like it just drops over her head. Eventually, it'll probably just like she'll just get like a full like piece of material that she just wears over, like with just like little eye holes cut out. Yeah.
And then this is exactly like that sketch, and I love that sketch. That was actually one of their good ones in the past couple of years. But there's an SNL sketch where Tom Hanks was on Black Jeopardy, and he was a Trump supporter. And at first, people were like, "Oh, we're not going to like him." But then it was kind of what I was talking about earlier, where like low income or lower socioeconomic people tend to have more in common than just people of the same race. And so it was like all the black people were saying stuff, and then the white guy was like adding on to it, and he was like, yeah, because blah blah blah. They're like, oh yeah actually. And they were kind of like really vibing with him, and they were like, okay, yeah. And like, he wasn't really trusting the government, he wasn't trusting politics, whatever. And then he says it was like lives that matter. And it was like, it's so funny to me because like saying all lives matter gets you pigeonholed, it gets you in trouble. But the sentiment, like you can have the sentiment that all lives matter and that's okay, but it's the words, like we're so hung up on the trappings of it and not the actual actions. Or it's bizarre to me. It's fucking insane. Like we're just so hung up on, you can't call them that. And now BIPOC is transitioning to ADOS, like African descendants of slaves.
What?
I'm like, yo, technically white people could qualify as that because it was 200 years ago. There's plenty of white people I know who have slave ancestors. So really we're just going backwards. So I hope eventually the next one they come up with is Darky or so, or like they just reuse, they just start going back to like the old
they're
ones,
just like the next
them.
thing, like people are like at their seminars where they're like going through and talking about racial inequality and racial equity and how we need to change. And they're like, and we've come up with a new way to describe and discuss and talk about this. Negroes. Everybody's like,
that one makes me laugh. Like when I hear somebody being like, for some reason, when somebody calls somebody, they're like, this Negro over here, like for some reason, it kills me. Granted, I guess if a white person said it, it'd be a little different because he'd be like, this Negro.
Well, these Negroes, and you're like, oh, wow. Yeah.
Like
that's
the
other thing too. It's funny because of the context of who's saying it. Because like this was like a couple weeks ago, and I thought this was really funny. Ripa, because we both know young Ripa, he got mad at somebody and he called him on stream. He's like, he's a bitch ass nigga. which is one of my favorite insults about anybody is that. But like if like Ryan or Jeremy was like bitch ass nigga, nobody would find it funny. We'd all be like, what did you just say?
Right, because it's not part of his cultural like
It's
lexicon
not
or
his
whatever.
thing. Yeah, but it's
so
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, because Ripple understands the context of you get so mad at somebody, you're like, he's a bitch ass nigga. Because he is. That's what he gets. But it's also even funnier to me when you call like a white person that would get offended by that because they're like, oh, how dare you? And you're like, how dare I what? What's the problem? Like, is there something you're offended by that I should be offended by now? Yeah.
It's like, don't be offended for me.
Yeah.
Oh, so that speaking of all that, I guess that's a after talking about all this like stuff that's gonna get me in trouble. I like how I acknowledge that I know it's probably gonna get me in trouble, so that if it ever does, I can be like, but I was aware, but it's like I still did it, still said it.
I
but
was just testing. I didn't know. I retarded.
Yeah, I'm like I'm retarded. Leave me alone. I'm a little bit retarded. Yeah, I let that slip the other day. I was talking about this issue with my agent, and I was saying something, I was venting, and I was like, they treat me like I'm some sort of like special needs child or whatever just because I'm brown. And she like was silent on the other end of the phone, and I realized, oh right, she's in LA. So I was like, I mean, they infantilize me, and but it was just funny that I was just like,
go back to the correct language.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, and I have to show that I'm sorry. But because she was calling to tell me that I was getting fired from a game that I've been working on for like 2 years. It's in development, and unfortunately because it's NDA, I can't say what game it is. But it was frustrating. It was very frustrating because it was the game God, I shouldn't have said game. I should have said project, whatever. It was a project where they had me do dialect coaching to sound blacker. So it's been a frustrating experience from the start because when I auditioned, the character was white. She was just a white Southern chick. And I was like, okay, so I auditioned and I got it. And then they changed it because they wanted her to be brown or they changed it because they wanted her to like, I guess they thought they'd get points for making the character biracial because I'm biracial or something. I don't know. Or who knows? Maybe they did cast me because they decided they wanted to be biracial and then they picked me, which is either way, it's insulting. But then they decided that I didn't sound, whatever enough. So then they put me in dialect coaching with a white lady teaching me how to sound
white
blacker,
woman.
A white woman teaching me to sound like a colored, and then so we tried, and I remember the thing is like part of me felt relieved when she told me I was getting recast because I'm like, thank God I don't have to keep doing that weird like shuck and jive anymore of like trying to sound like this thing that I'm not. Like, granted, actors should be able to play everything, but if I had known when I auditioned that I would need to be able to replicate an experience that I can't, I probably wouldn't have auditioned. So I felt like I was trying to be this thing, and I kept being like, this doesn't sound right. Like, I feel like I sound like I'm like being like faux show, like that's kind of what they were like steering me towards in the dialect stuff. And kind of it felt very much like, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. Like, that's what I felt like. I'm like, this does not feel like a modern black teenager from the South. This feels very like, I don't know, Celie from The Color Purple. So anyway,
caricature.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, they weren't trying to make it that way, but with the accent on me, it felt like blackface to me because I was not raised in the black community. So it's just as foreign for me to do it than it is for a white person to do it. But they somehow act like somehow I'm installed with the software just because I'm brown, I have that ability to turn that on. So anyway, it was a very cool thing. And like, I was trying to like, I don't know, I was trying to make it work. And like, it was actually an original idea, and it's a really beautiful like world they're creating. But when they showed me the trailer, like we did mocap for it and everything. And then they showed me the trailer and I was like, oh, they've changed the character design a little bit. She's looking a little bit more urban, as they say. And she kind of has this like attitude.
You're doing your best to skirt around an NDA. You're like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Because that I have no filter. I just say things, and then later I'm like, I shouldn't have said that on the internet.
That's why that's why earlier, and I thought you wouldn't come back, but you were like, oh, I signed an NDA and stuff. I was like, yeah, totally. We'll just kind of, and then we started talking about something else.
No, because it's really been bothering me because I'm just like fucking mad.
Yeah.
It's also because I'm like, that's why I was like sending it to my social media person. I was like, this is why Black at the Christie is one of my best sketches because it's relevant. She's like, okay,
Speaking of that,
yes, that is where well, that is not where Black Agatha Christie came from that game. It's from my collective experiences. One of them is always getting called in specifically for being brown. I'm like, listen, bitch, I'm funny, I'm snarky, I have a dry sense of humor. I have a lot of things about me that you could call me in for, but you're calling me in for the one that I have least control over and has the least bearing on my life or my personality. Like, what if I'm not a fucking token? So I'll get excited being like, oh, my agent was like, hey, you were personally requested. And I'm thinking, okay, like it's because they remembered my talent. No, it's always just because they needed a brown girl.
it's cause
And I'm,
black. Yeah.
yeah, because black. And so I grew up, or not grew up. I it's funny when my agent called to tell me I was being recast. She's like, "Do you remember when we first met? When you first came into interview from the agency? What you told me?" And I was like, "No," because that was like, 8 years ago. And in my head, I'm thinking, and because I'm a little bit taughted. But she, I
I
don't have
don't
good
remember
memory.
any of the things that I say.
I don't remember anything I said like an hour ago. But she was like, "Well, you told me." She's like, she said that you said, "Please don't send me in for black parts because I will not book them and I am not black enough. I will be told, like I promise you, I will never be black enough to book those parts the way Hollywood wants them to be done."
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, "Well, you were right." And so she told me that they were recasting me because I no longer fit the vision of the game. Like they knew enough not to say like, oh, she's black and you're not black enough or whatever, like. And I don't know. I agree. Like I saw the trailer, I was like, "Oh, I'm not, I'm not hood enough to play this," and not hood. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know. Yeah, I'm probably already breaking NDA too much. Whatever. They can come for all the negative money I have. They can come for all the debt. I'm like, please take it. Yeah. So it's just fucking weird. Like they'll treat you. They say it's for diversity and inclusion, but I'm like, I want to be included because I'm fucking good. Because I fucking worked at my craft. I want people to follow my comedy because they find it funny, not because that's why I don't use the hashtag like black creator or black or color, person of color. Like I try not to do that because I want people to find me because they like my ideas and my who I am, my personality. So anyway, with this,
Well,
with
no,
this.
I know we didn't expect to go this way, but I just think it's funny because I mean that's just how the show is, anyways. But your buddy posted this the other day, yesterday. Clifton actually posted this on Twitter, and I thought this was really relevant, just to like our experience in general. But he listed a bunch of shows: Cosby Show, The Jeffersons, Amen, Martin, 227. Rock, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Matters, Different World, Living Single. The diversity of black American sitcoms in the 80s and 90s was amazing. What a great era of television to grow up watching. And that's just a few of the shows that we grew up watching. But, and I said all of this, today's constant cry of representation and diversity is just an excuse to commodify the human experience. And like, that's the reality of it. Like when they talk about, like today, oh, we want representation or we want diversity. What they really mean is we want things to fit the stereotypes that we now think are the acceptable stereotypes. And when they don't fit those, it doesn't support the narrative that we have that everyone that is a colored person or that is a minority is a victim or is at the mercy of a system that despises them. So like it's less interesting to have a like a well-spoken, well-educated individual who is black than it is to have somebody
even
who
that
has
would
an
get you in
accent.
trouble.
Yeah.
Because they'd say you're calling them articulate. Oh, articulate, as if black people are inarticulate. So even that statement would get you in trouble. Continue. I'm just tallying your
I know what
crimes
you mean,
against humanity.
My crimes against humanity. Well, it's the internalized racism. I didn't know.
Right. It's not your fault. You didn't know. It's white people's fault.
Yeah, but it's like, that because even that conversation, like Eddie Murphy has talked about it, Dave Chappelle's talked about it. We talk differently depending on the people that you're with than you do. Like when I'm on the phone talking to somebody professionally, I'm not using slang, I'm not swearing, all that stuff. Does that mean that like I'm using different language or like I'm selling out? No, you use a certain way of talking to people so they can communicate effectively and so they have a feeling of professionalism than you do when you're talking to your friends and hanging out with your buddies and calling people bitch ass niggas. Because I wouldn't do that on the phone with somebody I don't know, but I would do that with somebody that I'm friends with. Like, that's, you know, the difference. But it really is all about how can we ignore. I like call it revisionist history, because if you ignore all of the strides that were made in the last like 30 to 40 to 50 years and just treat everybody like they're a victim, and then nowadays every time you have a character that's a black person, they always have to deal with racism. Or anytime, like you said, you're doing a movie or you're doing a video game or a TV show and the Vision is a black character, you're like, how can I make them fit the stereotype that most, you know, encompasses the black experience? And you're like, you're a white dude asking how to commodify the black experience, and the black experience is not one thing. It's not a single
We are not
thing.
a monolith.
Yeah, we're not. It's like, it depends on where you live. You grew up in a bunch of, like, a southern state, you might find is very different than if you grew up in California or you grew up in New York. And also, like Amanda has said, and this is the biggest thing that I think gets ignored a lot, a lot of it is your socioeconomic status. I've had just as many bad run-ins with police officers for being poor than I have for being black. Like, they're probably about even. Like, I've been pulled over because I didn't have insurance on my car because I couldn't afford it, or been pulled over for, like, my car making too much noise because I couldn't afford to fix the exhaust, or, you know, things like that. Or, you know, just as many times that I've been pulled over for walking home in the middle of the night because I'm black. Like, because that's happened too. Right. I've had both happen to me, and I've had both experiences. But the reality is, like, the experience is not exclusively my race, and it rarely ever is. Like, that's what used to happen. It doesn't happen anymore. Now it actually is more about that socioeconomic status. And if that ever got out and leaked, and you found that, like, people that are being disenfranchised are actually people that just don't have a lot of money, you'd actually start to see that unity. People start to take care of each other. And guess what? Those people would start to actually protect and look out for each other. And then you don't need the system as much. Then the system loses power. That's the issue here. If I can keep poor blacks and poor whites separated and thinking that they all hate each other, and that poor whites support Trump and poor blacks support the right side of history, then, like, they'll never ever unite against us. Like, they'll never unite against the real oppressor, which is a system that just wants power and wants to keep everybody in a victimhood narrative. So,
well, I heard that's, I mean, I can't remember who said it. I'm pretty sure there's a quote about that from, like, back when the Irish, when it was still, like, you know, no Irish need apply or whatever. I think that's when they started, like, making them cops or something. Like, they realized, oh, the blacks and the Irish were getting too friendly or something because they were both being shat on. So then they realized, oh, we'll let the Irish people be slightly above them, because people, when they're in positions of power, like, kind of, you know, like, I'm pretty sure that was, like, a calculated thing. Also, Trevor is bringing the fire. I don't know why I said it like fire. He's bringing the fire.
fire.
The black experience is a human experience, and the human experience differs from person to person. I could not agree more. Like, it's just like, yes, there are trends. Like you said, if you're a black person who grew up in a southern town, and it's even different if a southern city, like if you grew up in, like, Atlanta versus growing up in, like, Albany, Georgia, or growing up in, like, a rural black, like, you know, rural area, even that's going to be a different experience. So it's just I know it's, like, trite to say all lives matter, but that's kind of what, at least when I'm saying stuff like that, it's what I mean. Is I'm saying every human has gone through a human experience, instead of trying to, like you said, commodify it or be like, this is, like, when people say the black experience, that drives me nuts, because most black people will tell you, well, I don't know about most, but a lot of black people will tell you, actually, I think the universal black experience is being told you're not black enough by other black people. Like, like, that's the only uniting thing I can think of.
Yeah, or making fun of you for being too black, because that also happens too.
Right. Yes. That's true. Or if you're a dude, like, you guys get made fun of for being light skinned, and then girls get made fun of for being too dark. Although I have seen, did I share that with you? I don't know if I shared it with you. There was a sketch of a guy, or an interview with a guy from Africa. I think it was on Logan, one of the Paul brothers or whatever. They were interviewing him, and he came from Africa, and he's like, you know, when I came to America, they told me I was so dark that when God said, "Let there be light," I was out of town. You know, like, and he just kept going off on all these jokes.
Oh yeah. we used like that's the thing. First of all, yes, because I got picked on for being light skinned a little bit, not a whole
Hmm.
lot, because I'm like I'm still like just dark enough and I look black enough that I can like there's no really like mistake. They're not like, oh, are you a white guy? It's like no. But that was a thing that I remember like when me and my buddies used to hang out because my the way this worked is I had a really close friend of mine who was black, and his family and his mom they lived in an area that was predominantly white, and for the most part like wealthier, like upper class kind of thing. Um, so the way we acted when we were hanging out there, he would like skateboard and like ride bikes and like do all kinds of like shit like that. And then we'd go visit his dad, and his dad lived like 2 hours away in a predominantly black area. And the way like the he would shift, and the way we would all shift into that when we get to there, like it was just a totally different culture. It was a totally different way of like doing things. And one of the things that we used to do all the time was make fun of each other. And one of the things that often would come up is making fun of each other for like being like our skin color and stuff like that. We used to pick on the token white guy because we had one, and we made fun of him, and he knew he was the token white guy. And then there was a guy that used to live like that. There was their neighbor, I think it was, and he was a black dude, like a really dark skinned black guy that used to wear like BTUs and like military stuff all the time, but he wasn't in the military. And so they used to make fun of him and call him like all like Shaka Zulu and all kinds of stuff because like it was just how like we did things then. But nowadays that would be like super offensive to do, and I'm like, no, the point was it didn't matter. Like his skin color really
Hmm.
didn't matter to us. It was a joke
Right.
about like the person and like us picking on things and traits about people, not about us going like, well, we really don't like dark black people, so how
Right.
can we be racist against them even though we're also black, and like would get the made because like my friend was dark too, like it wasn't like he wasn't dark skinned too. It didn't it was the idea was you just make fun of things about people even if it didn't make any sense to make fun of somebody about that stuff. So
That's the thing. Is like it's like, people
yeah,
think, "Oh, well, girls online get bullied or boys on, black kids get bullied." It's like, "No, everybody gets bullied. You just get bullied about whatever you are." So like if you're a chick and you're gaming, they're going to tell you to make a sandwich. If you're black, they're going to throw, racial slurs at you. Like it's stupid. It's edgelord behavior, but like it's not that you're being disproportionately picked on. If you're white, they'll do whatever. They'll find your flaw, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're gay or you're whatever." Like they'll try to find an insult to throw at you. So like what Mike was saying, it's very much like,
yeah,
um, yeah, it's very much just they'll find whatever it is about you. Like they were gonna make fun
yeah,
of you regardless. So they're not like, "Oh,
yes,
we hate all dark skinned people." It's, well, you're dark skinned, so I'm gonna make fun of that. Like
yeah.
it's people not
Oh, that's actually
need to
pretty good. Yeah, if you're
stop
fat
taking
they're
this
gonna call you
personally.
enormous.
That's still so fucking funny to me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna call my fat family. I'm gonna ask them. I'm like, "Hey guys, what's it like being enormous?" And
and
see
you're oh
how they.
enormous, and you're like feel good about yourself, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but
Also,
like you said, yeah, you're gonna make fun of things about makes fun of somebody about anything. It doesn't matter because you're just gonna find something to pick on them about. Go ahead.
well, it's like what Trevor's saying. He says, "I remember being made fun of because I was black and listened to death metal since I was 11 and had a father in my life." It's like, "Ha
Yeah,
ha! You got a two-parent household, idiot."
yeah, yeah. It did because it didn't matter. But like, if you got upset about it, it would matter. Like, but yeah, I mean, you pick on things. I remember one time. This is like one of my favorite experiences gaming in like a Call of Duty lobby because that's like the joke. Nobody would survive Call of Duty lobbies nowadays. And I'm like, probably not because they were awful. Like, it wasn't like it wasn't always a fun time. Sometimes it was like bothersome. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of hearing the N word every 5 seconds. It's not
Mhm.
funny. And they're like, but you couldn't say that because like
Because then
you
they just
whatever.
dunk on you more.
Yeah, but I remember one time I was playing and there was these two Jamaican dudes that were playing and they were talking to each other and it was obvious that they were like going back and forth with each other. And this one guy, this white dude in the lobby goes like, "Oh, bumbaclat," and they were like, "Ah, bumbaclat," and then they just started ripping on this dude. And he just fucking left the lobby. He said nothing else. They ripped on him like in between the games loading, and he just fucking left because they made fun of him so bad, and it was fucking hilarious because he was like
Like
trying to fit in, but yeah,
it's like the black what is it? No, the was it Nigerian warlord? Like what's the it was like an older thing. It's the guy who's like, I know the way. And he was like
Oh
pretended
yeah.
to be what
Do
is
you know the way?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, and he would like find their address and like, and like
Oh
they'd like
yeah.
make fun of him for being African, and then he'd like be like, "Are you Trevor who lives at this address?" And everybody's like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Like, I love those videos.
Yeah. It's actually really funny. What? What is
um,
Mac talking about? What are you talking about, Mac? Deja vu.
oh, because it was
Uganda Knuckles was part of that. Yeah.
like I think it came out of that, but
Yeah.
no, I think Mac was saying something earlier about it feels like there's a glitch in the matrix because I'm wearing a veil and we're having this like deep conversation or something. It just feels like a weird moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't
oh
know,
yeah,
man.
and
It's go ahead.
black people love DBZ.
Oh yeah, hell
Naruto and
yeah.
DBZ, like you don't see black people being like, "Oh, there's only like the one black guy in Naruto and he raps." I mean, you do see they make fun of it, but like they like what they like because not all
Yeah.
black people are obsessed about race.
No,
Just the ones you
we
hear.
all thought Goku was cool as fuck. Like it didn't matter.
Mhm.
We all wanted to be Goku. It didn't matter what his skin color was. Nobody was like, "Oh, you can't be Goku because you're black." It's like nobody said that shit. Like back then, you know. And to be honest, like Piccolo's black anyways, so like we all know that. He just
we all know. We all
yeah, we all
know.
know he's Black Dad. Yeah,
What is that?
he
Like
took that like
he's like the orc where he's the stand-in where he's like, "Oh yeah, he's clearly
yeah.
black coded."
Yeah, we're just like, yeah. Dude, that's another thing. Like, the whole black coding thing is, like, crazy to me because, like, it. Okay, sometimes in context, I get it. But then other times, sometimes it feels so forced. They're like, where's the black coding in these characters? And you're like, because they're like, this character ate fried chicken, so they're black coded. And you're like, what? That's not how that works. Like, other people eat fried chicken. Ed Sheeran
Yeah.
eats fried chicken. That doesn't make him black. Like, you
I
know?
mean, I don't know. The new rules, all bets are off. Like, there's no criteria to
Yeah.
qualify for anything anymore. So maybe now the next thing will be like Rachel Dolezal might have been ahead of her time. So it's like,
Yeah.
if you can just say I'm this and that, with gender, then you can say like, oh well, then I eat fried chicken, and
Yeah.
I have a moderate to low credit score. I guess I'm black.
I guess I'm
That's
black. Well, do you
yes,
remember the racial draft sketch that Dave Chappelle
yes.
did? Yeah,
I
that's what
felt
I was
so
thinking about
seen.
the other day. Yeah, it was so good. They're like, hey, yeah, when they adopted like Tiger Woods, he's like, whatever, so long fried rice, hello fried chicken, and I'm like, that's
Yep.
really funny because once again, like, the idea that you have to be one or the other, so like you have to get picked by your like race to decide. But then when they started like just picking people at random, like they tried to
Mhm.
like
Like
they tried to
swap
adopt
was
Eminem.
yeah.
Like
What
yeah,
were they? Who were they giving up? Were they trying to give up? Was it OJ or who was it? They were trying to give up
how
for
did that
Eminem.
work? They were trying to make a deal for something. I don't remember, but yeah, I think they were trying to take Condoleezza Rice, and I don't remember. It was something like that. I have to go back and rewatch it again. I think it was like Colin Powell, and they were like trying to do something, and then they're like, the black delegation requests Eminem, and he's like, hold on a goddamn minute here. And so they like gave the white people OJ, and then they took like somebody else. I don't remember. It was fucking hilarious though. Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah, and then yeah, the Asians pick up Wu-Tang Clan.
it's
They're like they're
because
not
it's
even
also
black. They're like they're
it's
not even
also
Asian.
making fun of stereotypes. Like that was the
Yeah.
best part is that like it was hilarious and also it was doing that thing where it was subverting expectations by playing into the racist shit. By playing
Yeah.
into I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to interrupt.
100%. No, you're good. You're not in front. It's your show.
I
You're
know,
Mr.
but I don't want to be
Co-host.
rude.
Yeah, I know you say
I'm
that.
a racist. I'm not
She says
rude.
that she doesn't want to be rude, but then she tried to replace me with a fucking AI that she couldn't even keep alive for less than a month.
You didn't show up that day. That's why. You were like, I'm not
Okay,
showing up today. So that's why I created
that's
him. I didn't
okay.
create him to
So,
replace you.
all right, I'm not there for a week, and you replaced me with an AI. Got it. Then you kept
Mm.
bringing him back, and then you just abandoned him and let him die.
I didn't expect he would die. If I had known he would die, I probably would have checked in on him a little bit more frequently. Um,
If I had any awareness, to just like go back in time, and all she goes back in time for is just to keep White Mike alive.
yeah, just to kind of like he's like not dead. He's like that scene in Midsummer where he's like being kept alive, but his lungs are outside of his body or something.
Oh,
Like that's what it's like. Where poor White Mike is like I can't just let him die and be out of his misery. Give him just enough food and water for him to keep living, but just suffer.
yeah. Wow.
Why am I not? Oh, we both hit something.
Somebody asked if I saw the video of Obama code switching. Are you talking about the Key and Peele sketch, or are you talking about like in real life? Because he does it in real life too. Yeah, it's actually really fucking funny to watch. What were you clicking on? Oh, Amanda's the reason. Yeah, well, we'll see if this video even gets to stay up anymore. That's why she hasn't hit her thing, because she'll find that she'll get closer to getting the watch time, and then she'll get a video removed from her channel, and then she's like, "Oh, it set me back." But then she's like, "I don't care if it sets me back. Who cares?" And then it happens again.
Yeah, maybe it's something I should talk to my therapy horses about and be like, why is it that I sabotage myself? Because yeah, I know what I should do to play the game in order to build my following or whatever, but I'm also like, but I don't want to, because I don't want to, I don't know. Like, people are like, well, you should do this thing to pander to the right or pander to the left. I'm like, I don't want to pander to anybody. I am an artist. I'm like, I want to pander to the truth. Yeah. I don't want to be like making stuff that's like, yeah, just dunking on the right or just dunking on the left. I see dunkable people everywhere. Y'all are like Dunkaroos, just dipping you in the frosting and just having my fun. That is that what it is? Dunkaroos, Dunkables, Dunkaroos.
I think it's both. I think they're both. I think they're Dunkables and I think they're Dunkaroos. I'm gonna look this up now. I just was waiting. I was like, this is
because I'm enormous. That's why I made a Dunkaroos reference, because that's how I got enormous. Ate too many Dunkaroos.
God damn it. Dunkables it's Dunkaroos. Yeah.
I am afraid of success.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why she hired me. I'm here to make sure she never gets successful.
Yes, because you're the thing holding me back, not all the
She just looks around the room. Yeah, it's Mike.
Yeah. It's white supremacy, really. White supremacy is what's holding me back, not me, not my decisions, not my I'm still so surprised that she's like, this video is pretty controversial, because she has my views. And I'm like, wait, am I that? I'm not edgy. Well, I think it's that I'm not edgy in the way that you were describing, where I'm just like, yeah, and then you're like, I'm not just a shock jock, because to me, shock jocks are boring. They just say stuff like they never grew out of a Call of Duty waiting room, versus using it and actually having it be funny. Like, obviously, I don't mean most of the things I'm saying. I'm making fun of the idea, or I'm subverting it. I'm not actually saying, I don't know. I'm not saying I actually want to go back to slavery and get fucked by my slave master. I'm making fucking jokes about horrific situations, because that's what the trauma horses taught me to do.
This is all coming back to the trauma horses. Yeah.
It's just
the horses told me. As she's getting dragged out of her house. The horses told me to do it. Yeah. Yeah. The horses, yeah. It is what it is. No, to be honest, like, I agree with you on the shock jock thing, but if you can do it right, like South Park has done shock jock right, because they do things that are like,
to me, they're not shock jocks.
Like,
yeah, to me, that's satire.
They do stuff to be edgy, though. It is satire, but to me, that's
I do stuff to be edgy, but it's still with a point.
I guess that's the point, though, is like, there are like shock jocks that do it, like you said, just to be edgy and stupid. But I think there are some people that own the fact that it's like, that it's ironic. Like, that's the funny part of like postmodernistic irony or whatever. Like, is like, oh, I'm doing this and it normally would be offensive, but it's not offensive because I'm self-aware enough. Because like, we both know people on the internet that are a little bit more like edgy and kind of own it, but they're actually really fucking funny about it. Like, to me, that actually works for them, versus like other people, when it doesn't work, it's terrible. It's like some of the worst form of comedy when it doesn't work. But then like other times you're like, wow, this actually like really slaps because it's really fucking funny. Like, it's the difference between like Tropic Thunder and then that movie Rule 42 or whatever that movie was that they did.
I've never heard of the second one.
It was like a movie that this guy did, and it was like a compilation of like different sketches. Movie 43, that's what it was. It was like an anthology film, but it was like kind of marketed as like the most controversial film ever kind of thing, and it was supposed to be like, ooh, look how edgy we are, and it's kind of crazy. Like one of the sketches, some of the sketches are kind of funny, the idea of it. Like, one of the sketches was like a kid was in he was being homeschooled by his mom and dad, and so they were like trying to give him the authentic like high school experience. So like he had to like take his mom to prom, and then there was like all this like his dad gave him like the sex talk basically about like don't have sex with a girl, but it was his mom that he's taking to prom. But like the movie was pretty edgy, and a lot of people didn't really like it. It wasn't very well received because it was obvious that that's what they were kind of trying to go for, instead
Mhm.
of them trying to make something that was like legitimately funny. Like some of it worked and some of it didn't. Whereas like Tropic Thunder really slaps, but like that's really fucking edgy humor. Like I mean
Right. Like
that's like
that's more the vein because like they were making a commentary on, Hollywood. They were making fun of those kind of actors. So like to me, edginess when applied to a thought or to as satire, I don't think there's a limit if it's like
yeah,
satire. If it's just like,
yeah,
yeah, I've seen some movies where they're just like, we're just gonna be like a gross out humor or just something to be like shocking and but they don't have any substance. I don't like that. I don't think it's
yeah,
funny. I'm just like, okay.
yeah. You're like, wow, this is lame. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Do you remember
I mean, go ahead.
do you remember was it Freddy Got Fingered?
The one with
Tom
Hank Green
Green, I think.
or Tom Green, yeah.
Hank
Hank
Green?
Green, yeah.
Tom Green, you
Hank Green.
degenerate.
That would actually be pretty funny though. Watch Hank Green in a edgy comedy. Yeah. What about
Wait,
it?
granted, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so who knows? Maybe it actually is satire and it just went over my head. But I feel like maybe I'm misthinking. I feel like there was a scene where like they like jack off an elephant or something. I remember being like, "This is fucking disgusting," and it's not funny. But
Let me see.
maybe I'm like mixing my shock jock
Nope, nope.
movies.
That's definitely Freddy Got Fingered.
Did you get a
Actually,
picture of it?
yeah, I immediately pulled it up. Yeah, to see. I just
What
typed
did
in
you
elephant,
type?
and I was like, there it is. I typed in Freddy Got Fingered elephant.
I'm glad you had your safe search on because I bet you there were
I don't.
probably some other results from
I don't
Pornhub
have my
that it would
safe
have
search
given.
on. I never have
Oh,
my safe search on. Like
so
you
your
can't find what
eyes are
you're
getting
looking for
burned out.
when. Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but that was one of them. Well, they also did the movie. What's it called? There was a movie that Sacha Baron Cohen did recently. Where he was supposed to be like him and Mark Strong. Um, were supposed to be like assassins or something like that. And I remember in that movie there was like a whole the brothers Grimsby, and there was apparently like a scene in that where he like went inside of like an elephant's vag, and
What?
people were like really like people were like super fucking grossed out by it and stuff. And the movie didn't like get super well received. I mean, but he's done like Borat. Borat was like a cultural
That's
phenomenon,
brilliant.
and
Yeah.
yeah, Bruno was like Bruno was less well received, but like even Bruno, like some of those things like slapped, but like yeah, apparently the Brothers Grimsby people were like, this is not good. This is kind of fucking cringe, and so it didn't like go over super well. Yeah,
You just have to be smart about it. Like, don't just be like, hey, wouldn't it be shocking? Like, I'm not just like, hey, wouldn't it be shocking to have a Klansman in my sketch? Like, there's a reason he's there. There's like,
yeah,
it's not just like, hey, this is gonna piss people off. Like, to me, that's what a shock jock is. It's just somebody who's like, huh, this will piss people off, as opposed to, I'm gonna say what I want to say, and it's probably going to piss people off, but you at least have something
yeah,
to say. Granted, people are allowed to do whatever they want, but it's, yeah, I don't know. Like, South Park, a lot of people tried to make it seem like, oh, it's gross out humor. And like, there are gross moments, but even then, like, for the most part, even when, the Caitlyn Jenner running over people, their bodies are horribly mutilated. So that's like shocking, but it's also funny because it's part of the joke about just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna drive you, like I'm gonna I'll be your ride, and like running over people every time she gets in the car. Like that's funny to me.
yeah.
So anyway,
But once again, if you do humor and you run the risk of not being funny, and that's the worst thing that could ever happen to a comedian is not be funny. Like because
we
that's your
actually just
whole
like
life.
fade into the ether. We just like
Yeah.
we're like, if we get ratioed, and then suddenly we just like, what a world, what a world. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. It's like throwing water
so,
on a witch. Yeah.
hmm
But
I
yeah.
would know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
That's what she
getting
lives like right
hungry,
now.
so
You're
I'm
getting
gonna
hungry.
probably wrap it up.
She's gonna eat some Dunkaroos.
Yep.
Yeah. And I kind of like to
Dunkaroos.
just think that that's what like Amanda's whole like all
My
of her
whole
like
closet.
everything. Yeah, everything, every cupboard, her fridge, everything is full of Dunkaroos. She's like, "Oh, frozen Dunkaroos for dinner tonight? Oh, don't mind if I do."
Ooh. I actually like blend it to make like a frappe, like a Dunkaroo frappe. I saute my Dunkaroos. I
She's
have
just
a whole pantry of them.
she's like frying them up and shit. She's like, "Oh, fried Dunkaroos as well." Wow. Yeah.
Yes. Get more enormous. It's like, yes. That would be
No.
funny, like enormous positivity. Like if they actually did adopt that change and they just started calling themselves like giant mammoth gargantuan positivity,
Yeah.
land whale positivity. Like what the fuck is this?
Don't enormous
Fat?
shame me. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking why would enormous be what you they could have said fluffy, like Gabriel was it Gabriel Iglesias? They could have said pleasantly
Yeah.
plump. Plump is
Yeah.
adorable. Round, rotund, like there's nicer ways, I guess, but fat to enormous. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, NPR. Well, I guess NPR didn't write it, but they wrote the whatever.
I know what you're talking
I'm imagining that this was said with that Klansman accent. Instead of boy,
Yeah.
I'm imagining boy. You're not allowed to eat 12-hour stream. Whoosh, let's go, boy. Get back in that field. Do that live stream.
Oh my god. That's what got us.
Yep.
That's what got this stream removed. We were doing so. They were like, "Oh, like the meters like tinking over to red," and then Amanda
It's
just
like
goes,
max capacity.
"Boy," and it's like tink.
The bolts are coming out of the machine. Like it's just like malfunctioning. It's like ah,
Yeah.
boy. That was the part everybody liked though in the sketch, and it's not really a sketch.
It's
That's
fucking
literally
hilarious.
just the first 30 seconds. But like, get out of here,
Yeah.
boy.
It's fucking hilarious, but it's obviously TikTok has no sense of humor.
Well, and I also wonder, I don't even know if it was reported manually or if the actual algorithm just has a way to detect like anybody who has a pointy head, I guess maybe. Like I don't know like cuz I didn't say like the N-word. At one point I did say, you know, like, oh, I got called a white supremacist on the internet. I did start saying racist, but I could have been some like black TikToker being like racism and white supremacy, blah 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 blah. Like they don't ban that. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
The stream is always on the red line.
Yes, it's always tinkering towards like us not being around anymore. But yeah,
It's a white birthday hat. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just a little oversized. It just slipped down and kind of fell.
yeah. The eye holes are for my hair. I pull my hair through that. Yeah.
That would be. Is there something there?
Don't. No.
I have this clan hood. Like I made it out of a pillowcase. It's mine now. I own it.
That's
I'm
like-
gonna bedazzle
My
it
favorite
for
part
the
is
full
like,
sketch.
listen, I gotta use it for something.
I gotta get maximum mileage out of it. You know, it was a bamboo pillowcase too. It wasn't even a cotton one. Those aren't cheap.
Ooh.
It was stupid, but
Yeah.
I'm very impulsive, and I didn't want to wait to find a white one because I don't go to the store. I just go on Amazon. I was like, I don't want to wait 2 days to make a white
You
clan
could've just went
hood.
to any store in the world.
That would
and found
require
a
me
pillowcase.
leaving my house, going to a store, having to look for stuff. I hate having to look for stuff. Like in stores, they're just like, I'm like, where's your clothing? Like it's never intuitive. And then I have to talk to somebody and be like, where's your stuff? And they're like, over there. And then I have to be like, thank you. And I don't like thanking people. I don't like talking to poor people. Hourly workers are not people to me. You
The
are.
fact that you even think you have to talk to an hourly worker when you go into a store to find fucking pillowcases says a lot.
Well, it
What do
depends.
I
It's not
even
like it's a.
do? I have to walk in
it's-
there and ask them where their things are. They don't have sign. What do you think I'm going to do? Read the signs? They're carrying
It's
me on
not-
their backs.
It's what if I go to big stores? Well, like if I'm in a Target, I'm looking around, I'm seeing a bunch of clothes, I'm seeing pool noodles. I don't know where your bed sheets are. So I'm not gonna walk around the whole store to find it. I want to be maximum efficiency. Because I've got Dunkaroos to get back to. They're waiting for me at home. I can't just leave them unattended. This is literally the first time I thought about Dunkaroos in like 20 years, and now I've just made that part of my identity now that I just always eat Dunkaroos. It's part of the lore.
And that when she walks into Target, she just goes, "Where are your pillowcases? Tell me now."
Yeah,
And then she has
peasant!
to-
I go in and I take off my glove and I slap them. That's how I greet them. I'm like, peasant, tell me where your pillowcases are. Do not look me in the eye.
Yeah.
I'm mourning.
No. And then she gets And then I like, because the other thing that was in my head was like you at a store with pillowcases, and you're just like watching you put them over your head to see where the eye holes would go.
This is to like and like practicing where I cut
Like,
the eye holes out.
yeah, testing where like if the point's
The
high enough.
pointiness. Because
Oh God,
you don't want a flaccid clan hood because then it just looks cute. Then it just looks kind of like Dopey or something, like one of the seven dwarfs. Like it's just like
God.
hi ho, hi ho. It's off to cross burning we go. That doesn't quite work. It's cross burning we go. There we go. Oh,
We
a
got it.
cross burning.
We were
Like
supposed to end this stream
sailing.
like 15 minutes ago so you could eat.
Yeah, well, this is what happens because I was like fasting, but then I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that, and I've been doing it decently, but like today, suddenly it just hit me, and I'm like,
Yeah, it was very out of
Dunkaroos.
nowhere. We're just like talking, and you're like, I need to eat. Mike, in the
like
stream, I need to eat.
have like a 30-minute like intermission. Like it'll be like when you went to go see like Gone with the Wind back in the day, they'd have like an intermission, like just do that, or like theater, it'd be like, all right, everyone, we're going to have a 30-minute intermission. The performers are going to change into the Act 2 ensembles. They're going to get some food and then come back. Enormous again. Never stopped being enormous.
Typical Walmart activity.
With the clan thing, yeah, just like my point. I don't like it.
Goldilocks and the three clans, yeah. And the three Goldilocks and the 3Ks. There we go.
Yep,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah. I also saw Ruby said something earlier. Is this who we are? Is this who we look up to?
Ruby's like, oh my God, what is happening? What are we
Yeah, she's
doing
like-
right now?
Like, wait, Amanda just like pulled us onto her cult and like we call ourselves daywalkers and everything. It's like, this is what we want to be. And then Ruby, you know what? I need to watch out for Ruby. Now you're gonna be like the one who's like, you're acting all like, you know, she like runs the Discord and she's like trying to like be like there, and then she's slowly gonna like single like brown female me, and like she's gonna become me, and then she'll become the daywalker. And I'll go the way of White Mike. I'll get like a free helicopter ride, and then
Helicopter ride. That sounds pretty bougie.
yeah, I guess tell that to was it Pinochet's friends. I don't know what I'm talking about. Wasn't he that dictator that like gave all the old politicians in the regime he took over free helicopter rides and threw them out over the ocean?
Probably, I don't know. That sounds.
Is it gonna be a white veil? Not unless White Mike comes back and proposes.
Yeah, but he's dead. He's not coming back. Any White Mike that returns is not the same White Mike. So
maybe he's whiter Mike. He's a better Mike. He's a superior Mike. Like that daywalker is now an STD.
Yeah, it's a disease. You've been infected with the daywalker, and then like you just start noticing all these props showing up in your home, and then like randomly like just spurts of rainbow lighting across your walls, and you start wearing veils and shit, and the next thing you know you're wearing a clan hood. And
if you noticed, I turned off the rainbow for White Mike. There is no joy right now. There is no gay hellmouth. They're all just trapped where they are. They don't get to come and go. She shut down
the gays. She's like, sorry gays, my boyfriend is dead.
My boyfriend is dead. Also, no, this is up to you guys. I want you guys to come up with the dance. I want you to it'll be a signature I want you to feel a part of the community. So get to work.
Yeah.
Boy.
We need to end this before she goes back to racism again.
I can't. That's what happens when I get angry. I get I get rangry. I get racist and angry. And then that sounds like I'm just being racist because it sounds like I'm saying an Asian thing. I'm like, I get rangry.
I get rangry. I a bit retarded.
There's a street in Atlanta. It's like a neighborhood street called Vanira. Like Vanira, and I can't help it. It sounds to me like the guy from South Park ordering ice cream or something. He's like, okay, I get Vanira. Vanira.
And then I like how we started. This is the thing we started, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't use the typical Chinese accent," and then she immediately like that's how we ended the stream. Is she couldn't
Because
help
I'm angry.
it. The
Oh,
hungrier
oh, that's
Amanda gets,
better.
the more racist she gets.
I like this better. Oh, wait, was it? It was
Rungry?
Rungry. I'm Rungry.
I'm just hungry right now, okay, guys? Like,
Yeah,
wow,
guys.
those damn Asians. I mean,
Yeah, no,
sorry, I'm hungry.
go back to China. Sorry, I'm just a little angry. I haven't had my Dunkaroos yet. or just like these people, we all know statistically these people are just inherently more likely to be violent. It's just, oh, sorry, I need to eat. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you're not you when you're hungry.
Almost, you're not you when you're hungry, and then it's just the fucking Klansman again. I'm gonna try to find a way to put him in every sketch, just to because again that fear of success, where I'm like, well, I know I know what's gonna get me banned, so I'm just gonna only do that.
Yeah. That's her. That's her. Like that's the hill she's fighting on. She's like, you need to understand, I'm an artist. So every video somehow ties back to the KKK and her wearing the hood.
This will be my agenda now. And they'll be kind of confused because the clan will be like, she's kind of like our PR person now. I don't.
Yeah.
I guess
Hey,
like.
hey boss, I don't know
Give
what
them
to
good
do about this
publicity.
one. Yeah.
They're not sure if they should retweet it or not because they're like, she's brown, but it's funny.
Yeah.
It's like that meme with the sweating where he's like trying to decide between the two buttons.
Racism. More racism.
Exposure.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. No.
Okay. It's not that I don't want to be successful. It's that I don't want to be successful on other people's terms, and that's what it feels like. Like I want to be able to make whatever I want to make. And so part of me is like, okay, well, let's say if I play by the game and I get big and I get like 1 million followers or whatever, but then I have a platform to worry about losing. Whereas here, like it would suck to lose this platform, but then I can rebuild it. I don't know. It's more like the bigger you get, the more you have to lose. And also the more people see you. This stream is more fun because it's just us. Like it's like, maybe like 30 or whatever. I think like later maybe we get like 200 that watch it. But for the most part, it's like our little our friend group almost, like our little community. If this was just like pinging like I see on Twitch, it wouldn't be fun. Like it's the engagement that's fun for me. Maybe I'll just make this like if I get bigger, I'll make this like a private stream for like members or something, and then we can just hang out and be degenerates. I don't have to worry as much about what I say publicly and get in trouble. Wait, Susan's stepping down?
Yeah. It's not as good as it should be. Nope. The guy that stepped in is even worse. So he was like really big in it. He was like really big in it, like NFTs and all this stuff, and like tried to do this whole initiative with like all of this NFT stuff for YouTube. And yeah,
I thought NFTs were like I thought NFTs were like crypto. Like I thought they were more of like a decentralized kind of. No.
I mean, kind of, but they're not a thing. They're not really like a. It's bad. He's not a good person either.
Just because he doesn't like NFTs. Susan.
No, he likes NFTs. Like he's kind of an idiot. It's like a whole big thing. Yeah.
Yes, I have it. It's a human skull shield wall. It's not.
I don't know why you guys are surprised by this.
But the thing is, this isn't White Mike's skull because White Mike wasn't a human. So I'll leave it up to you. You'll have to. It'll be part of the lore too. Of like you'll have to figure out whose skull this is. Is that why when I was pretending to hold up a store, I asked for arsenic? Like maybe this is why my veil is not white. It's not my bridal veil anymore because I killed my husband like Miss White. And I never really understood what an NFT was, but I just was like, oh, it seems like blockchain or whatever. So I thought it was when everybody, all of my friends were like, NFTs are the devil because it's like crypto. So in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, then maybe NFTs are based. I don't know. But no, that sounds stupid, like a copyrighted meme.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's a bad call.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good that Susan's stepping down though. Like, who knows? I don't know. Yeah, send me whatever you have on this guy. Maybe I'll add him to my skull collection. That might get me in trouble for threatening to kill the
current CEO of YouTube. Yeah.
I mean, is he current
or
is it
really
like
threatened to say you were going to kill him either? You just said maybe you'll add a skull to your collection. Yeah.
Did I say skull or did I say I'll add him to my collection? Because maybe I meant like my collection of dickery, like a Rolodex of men, just like I keep like a binder of women.
That's how she's going to grow her channel. Is she's just going to start smashing the CEO of YouTube?
You know what? Isn't that
It's
isn't
bold
that the
strategy,
rumor that?
Cotton.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see if it pays off for her. I think it will. Except then, if I ever stop banging him, then he'll probably nuke my channel. So I guess it'll be like a commitment. Uh, hmm. Well, nope.
Yeah, you gotta end it before this gets
I
worse.
was getting, I felt a hunger pang, and I was about to say like zig something, and then I was like, oh, that
Oh
might
my
actually do
god.
it.
Yeah, that might do
Because
it.
that
You
was,
should
it's part
definitely
of the
end the stream
joke.
now.
It's part of the fucking
No,
joke. The
no,
hungry
no,
I get, the
no.
racist I get.
No, that's not.
God
No,
damn it.
yeah, but like you, yeah, guys, we're gonna
It's
leave
funny.
now.
It's funny
I'm gonna
because I'm
wave
basically implying that I'm
and say
very
goodbye
hungry.
to everybody because
God
we
damn
gotta
it.
stop her now
It's
before
like,
she gets her
Grandma's got to
channel
go to
nuked.
bed now.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
gotta
Grandma's
take a
lost the
nap.
plot, guys.
Like,
Bye,
oh,
guys.
what? I remember when you used to be able to say colored. It's like, okay, Grandma. Do you have anything to do you have anything to plug, boy?
Not anymore. No, no, no. Just just check me out on all my socials: Twitch, Twitter, maybe YouTube in the near future, more than what I've posted already. And you come back next week. Tell your friends about us. Yeah, I don't know how you'll explain this to your friends, but just tell them to show up anyways.
I think the veil gives me power because I'm like not really hidden, but I'm like slightly hidden. So now I feel like I can say what I want. It's like, no, this is not like a
think
clan hood.
that's how that
You're not
works.
anonymous.
You are not
You're not
anonymous.
anonymous.
We can all see your face. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. And I'm glad you guys are having a good time. I'm having fun. I'm not overthinking it as much as I used to, so that's nice. I'm just like, whatever. If they want to stay, they want to stay. And question for you.
I don't know yet. We'll see. It's a possibility. It's on the table. We'll see. I might do a lot of traveling this year. We'll see. It just got announced like April 23rd.
Oh, that's like soonish. What was I gonna say? Also, you guys need to start working on Mike because Mrs. Epic and I are now convinced because she's like, yeah, let's move. So I'm trying to get them to move to Georgia so we can do these shows like in person. And I'll be besties. And Mike's like, no, I have like a life here. I have a job, and I'm like,
friends and family here. Yeah.
No, you don't need that.
Yeah.
You don't need that. I'm your family now. Remember, I'm your cult leader.
Oh no, that's not a thing.
Yeah, cult leaders are a thing, and that's what this is.
Not 23rd, 26th. Yeah.
You know, that's 6 days after Hitler's birthday.
Oh my god!
So that was intentional.
That was intentional. I didn't know when his birthday was.
I don't know why, but my friend's birthday was April 20th, and so then I learned that she said it was Hitler's birthday, and I was like, oh. Yeah, because I think it's 420, right? So I think it was like people were like getting out on Hitler's birthday. It was like, maybe
oh my god,
am I wrong?
I don't know.
I'm not looking it up.
Don't look it up. No, just
I'm not
just gotta end the stream.
I'm just gonna spread misinformation. My stomach is eating my brain. Just
instead of leaving because she's fucking hungry, she's like, I'm just gonna stay here and die on camera. She's like, oh god.
Just like slowly, like the death I was talking about before White Mike, where he like slowly wastes away because I need the attention. So I'm like, I can't get up because if I get up, I have to end the attention.
Yeah.
But also don't look at me.
So that's what the racism is about. She's trying to circumvent ending the stream by just having her channel nuked. She'd rather have her channel nuked than have to walk away from people watching her. Oh god, I'm so hungry.
So I can say, look, I tried. I didn't quit. YouTube quit for me. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
We have to leave first, is what Meerkat said. Yeah, I think that's trigger my abandonment issues. That would be funny. Just everybody just decides to leave at once.
Numbers just fucking tank to zero. She's like, oh my god, they all left.
They hate me. Oh
no. Maybe they'll come back if I stay here. Oh god, I'm so hungry. The Jews, and you're like, oh no. Yeah.
Say the Jews.
Yeah.
As I like fade into oblivion, like with my witch finger.
Yeah, that's how she dies. And the whole time that's happening, Susan's watching. She's like, we got her. We finally did it.
Susan's going down too because she's like on her way out, so she's also melting like the witch, as I am melting, and we're both just like tell your therapy horse, my emotional support horse.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring my emotional support horse with me on the plane. Mukbang. I mean, I would no, actually, I shouldn't.
You shouldn't. No, you really shouldn't.
Yeah, Mike will have to say, oops, sorry. That's not what I meant to click on. But you clicked on it. For the views. Next week we'll see Amanda is back at the horse farm. That'll be funny. They'll be like, oh yeah, she was just being funny and goofy, and really this is like me having a mental breakdown. This is actually what like my friends, when I was making all those videos, that they actually maybe were legit like had a reason to be worried. And I'm just making it seem like
oh no, she's starting to talk about she's starting to wear the clan hood again. We gotta get her back to the horse farm. Yeah.
This is I appreciate the star-crossed lines. You care about my well-being. You love me enough to hurt me, and I appreciate it.
We just want you to go eat.
I know, and the problem is I don't know what I want to eat because nothing's ready. So then it means I also have to make something or order something. So either way, I'm probably still like 30 minutes to an hour away from food because I don't have my collection of Dunkaroos. Just you have the power to end it too, Mike, but you don't.
I'm not going to end your stream. It's your show.
You enable me. I'm an addict.
Imagine like you're watching like David Letterman back in the day, and the fucking bald guy behind the piano is like, "All right, folks, take it easy," and plays him out.
Have a good night. Is that you? Are you the bald man?
Apparently, yeah. The glasses.
Good.
I don't remember his name.
Yeah. No stream today because I'm in a Dunkaroo intervention with my trauma horses. Also, I like that anime came back to be like, go eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do it. All right. Don't say anything, Amanda. Just end it. Don't go for the joke. Just bust into your illegal raw milk stash. I already have. I've learned that you freeze it. I get, instead of getting a full gallon, because it doesn't last that long, I'll get the half gallons. I get the half gallons, and then you freeze some of it. You got to pour a little. I've got my supply chain. Now I know who at the farmer's market to go to. I got my guy, and then watch, you're gonna find out that I actually die of raw milk poisoning. Like this whole time, I'm like, no, it's got more nutrients, and then actually, like Louis Pasteur is like, why did I invent pasteurization, you dipshit?
No.
Also, if you ever meet me in person, this is what it's like when I say goodbye. I never say goodbye. I keep it going. And then the other person's the one who's like, okay, I gotta go. I'm like, oh, also. So I'm going for the end broad.
I can't end it. Yeah, she's got to hit the button.
You can't end it? You're also a moderator or an admin.
I can't. Once again, I'm not going to end your show for you.
This is like me holding myself hostage.
It's like, I'll
let me leave. Wait,
right now. Yeah.
I know. It's like, true. Good.
But see, the thing, if you don't comment, she'll just watch the comments waiting for you to comment. She'll be like, what? Because I don't want to hit anything.
I don't want to hit end. Honestly, I was about to hit end, and then you put the raw milk comment on there. I was almost done.
Oh God.